Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. In this week's show, we are going to recap Fight to Win 169, Josh Cisneros versus Kennedy Maciel. We are going to recap the 2020, technically, Abu Dhabi World Pro that took place in 2021, and we're going to recap the Emerald City 170-pound Invitational. We are also going to preview Fight to Win 170. As always on the show, I'm your host, Maine, I'm the co-host,
Zach.
And we got a great show in today. Disclaimer here, I am... 2 days? 2 days from a back surgery, so I am a little busy, having a bit of a rough time, working about 70 hours the last couple of weeks, trying to get everything squared away before that surgery. So Zach is definitely going to have...
carrying the show
They're going to carry the show a little bit this week, so if I'm out of or get stuff wrong, hit us in the comments on it. Other than that, super happy about the show. This week in news, I don't really have any news because of the aforementioned being kind of out of it.
It's been kind of a boring week.
Kind of a boring week. Yeah. Cody Steele won
that was interesting.
Yeah, Cody Steele took his first
striking. Yeah, it was a Thai boxing tournament.
Okay, it was Thai boxing.
It was Thai boxing.
I don't know why I thought it was boxing.
Well, maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong.
Striking tournament. We don't really cover.
He said striking a lot on his shit, and I've seen videos of him practicing his striking, and it included kicks. So I guess it doesn't necessarily mean that it was boxing. Yeah,
no idea.
But either way,
we don't really cover striking on the show. But Cody Steele is a guy that
apparently, so that was interesting.
We see a lot, so I figured we'd talk about him foraying into striking actually in an amateur context. Took 3 fights. I think he has 2 KOs and a TK or something, knocking dudes out, but
ruined people.
Very what you'd kind of expect from Cody Steele, given how he grapples. I assume that's how he fights.
He's an athlete.
I kind of want to find the footage because I'm very, very curious to see how it went.
I
know. So that's all I got for news. I don't think there's anything else.
Not a lot.
Probably something major that I'm forgetting. Much like we're probably forgetting a major event this week that's going to happen next week on the show when somebody else carries the show after I'm 4 days post-surgery.
Could be me, could be not.
But that's all I got for news. Yeah. Let's move into the recap. Fight to Win 169.
Damn, this match.
Josh Cisneros versus Kennedy Maciel.
This match. Holy crap. And the announcers on this match were saying that it's probably the best Fight to Win match that they've ever seen. I may or may not agree with that. It's for sure the best one this year so far in my eyes, and one of my favorite matches that I've ever seen.
It was great. Yeah, it was.
It hurt me a bit because spoiler on this: Cisneros loses after an absolute dominant performance, and it hurt me a bit because Cisneros is quickly becoming one of my favorite jiu-jitsu players right now.
Oh yeah,
I love watching him, and I think that he's technically stunning. And he put on a fucking clinic for 9 minutes and 40 seconds.
I'll give you that. Yep, out of a 10,
and then got choked.
With 9 seconds left.
9 seconds left. He put on a fucking clinic. So we'll start from the top.
Let's start at the beginning of the match, because the whole match, if you have not seen the match,
watch it. It's so good.
It is a match to watch. It is one of those matches, as watching it, I went, oh, this is a top 10 for the year. I don't know how this is going to end, but this beginning section of the match, this is going to be in our top 10 list for the end of the year.
I didn't know anything. I knew Kennedy had won because I logged into Flow and it showed me that Kennedy had won. And that's the only thing that I knew was Flow spoiled it for me a little bit, and I was watching the match, and every minute that went by, I was like, what the fuck could Kennedy do to win this match?
What 4 minutes in the triangle or something?
Oh my God. So every minute that went by, I thought, how? Did they mess up? Did Flo mix this up somehow?
Or is Flo messing with us? Or is the refs get the decision weird?
But it had to be a submission by 9 minutes left in the match. It had to be a decision, and I was just on the edge of my seat. When does this submission come? Oh man! All right, so
let's
now that we spoiled all that, we can go through some of the technical pieces.
You listen to the Grappling Rewind for the spoilers. This is
right.
very much
it was going to be spoiled now or in 10 minutes.
You watched the fights. Let's talk about it. Or hey, here are the fights that you should be watching this weekend if you didn't watch them.
So it starts off Kennedy pulling guard, and Cisneros looks incredible on top. Just right off the bat, he's aggressively passing. His stability and mobility look unbelievable. Kennedy is mounting little bits of offense, trying to get together some grips to put something together, and Cisneros is just not having it. He's mobile and fantastic. It was really, really nice.
And he used a little leg pin pass.
Yep,
which I thought was nice.
Leg pin pass, which he didn't finish it. But
he set it up very well, and I liked the way that he sort of didn't really bait it, but he didn't like wait on it.
No.
He used it. He sat there. Like the Rutolos sometimes will sit, like the guys that I know that use it most are the Rutolo brothers. And they will kind of like stand on it and wait. And like they play a much slower leg pin passing game. Cisneros like step, and then he's off with it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was nice. But he didn't actually end up finishing any of those passes. What he did end up doing, though, was he got into what was more or less headquarters. And so he's in this headquarters sort of position.
Headquarters from the passing position, not the 10th planet guard position.
Yeah. Sorry, headquarters
so that, like,
the passing position.
The how do you describe that?
He
like
kinda,
a combat
this
base.
wasn't even a actually headquarters either. It was like a variant of headquarters. And so the actual position that Cisneros was in was both feet were on the mat with his butt very low, sort of a Mikey Musumeci style. But he has Kennedy's shin in between his legs and his knees pinched together. And so he's sort of isolating one of Kennedy's legs in between his thighs with his butt really low. But the knee is in front of his chest.
This is something
still.
that you see used a ton with when you have a low lapel grip. Guys will use it to pass around.
Yes.
They basically pull the lower skirt of the gi underneath, and they'll pinch that leg, and essentially it blocks one side of the hip because you have that lapel. He's doing it in no-gi. We see it in no-gi. It definitely is a much more squirrely kind of no-gi pass.
But it came off of a true headquarters, which is the same sort of position, but his knee sort of angled a little bit off so that the knee's on the thigh. And so he ends up in this sort of modified headquarters position that we see a little bit more in gi, like you said. But what he does from here is he sits his butt up and chest down at the same time and shoves Kennedy's legs down in between his own. So he's like got the shin in front of his chest at first, and he stands his hips up, pushes the knee through, and then on his way forward, so he's sort of passing and would probably land in what would be, my guess is like if he didn't do what he actually did, he would have ended up in about a 3/4 mount. So what he does instead, though...
What I laugh is I taught this in a class 2 weeks ago.
Oh, nice.
Like
now you go tell people that you're not full of shit.
Just jump over the guard. Like I taught just jump over the guard, pass.
He did not just jump over the guard.
No. But I taught it in a much more crude way. But I laughed that like it was a technique that people in the class were like, "This is kind of weird." Like I was like, people use it, and then to be validated by Josh Cisneros, I was like,
good.
It fucking works. I'm happy that like I taught something good.
So what would probably happen if he did this a little more loosely or with less technique and less skill is that he would end up in 3/4 guard. But what he does instead is on his way forward, he gets an underhook on the far arm. So he's passing to his left. He gets an underhook on the arm on his Cisneros' right side, Kennedy's left arm.
Where you grab the underhook from.
Yeah. And then he also ducks his head down behind Kennedy's back. So he drops his head down.
This was the wild piece because, like,
oh my
to
God,
have the
this
positioning
was unbelievable.
and to have the balance to do that with the underhook grip and the head in that position, I went, I've seen it before, but it is a very rare position to see guys. Like, you have to commit to what you're doing to such an extent, and you got to have the balance to back it up because you're teetering with like your head. It can't really be the post because it has to be underneath, and your underhook has to prevent the back take.
He actually does post with his head after this, right? He ends up. So I have some pictures of it just so that it was clear in my head. He tucks his head.
Share with Maine. If you got pictures, share with Maine.
So he tucks his head.
Oh yeah.
So he tucks his head behind
Kennedy's
head, and then posts on his forehead, but he still has this far underhook, and then he uses the like his leverage underneath Kennedy and this underhook to come all the way around Kennedy or all the way around his
almost
back.
Like a Barrett Yoshida crucifix.
Yeah.
Where it's like Barrett Yoshida will grab
look.
that really low crucifix where your head is like in his stomach, and he'll just like punch you in the face repeatedly.
Sort of crawls around underneath, and he's still got this arm, and then he transitions this underhook into an overhook grip as he's coming around the back, and then he ends up on Kennedy's back with the armbar, right? So he climbed all the way through, and in the process of him climbing underneath Kennedy sort of rolls forward to base out, which seems like a good idea.
Well, it usually is, because usually it's so rare you're ever going to see a guy follow you like this. Like, because usually what happens is once you make the turn, their hips fall off the top of your shoulder because they've overcommitted. They don't actually have a good enough grip on your shoulder and arm to go for their arm. Like they go for it, they fall to their back, and then you're out. So Kennedy does what like works in 99% of the situation, which like the guy's not actually gonna go for the arm because he's out of position and he hasn't stabilized. And Cisneros goes, "Bruh, I'm Josh Cisneros, like, I'm going to try to finish you at every avenue. And my finishing mechanics are great."
But also, I think as part of this, it's the way that Cisneros transitioned on the arm. he went from this underhook to this really, really deep behind the back sort of overhook, and then is holding the shoulder really close to his center chest. And so the roll, like Cisneros is able to follow because he's got this tight grip on the shoulder, and he just stays attached to the shoulder as he rolls.
He's
and
actually attached to it as he's going for it, versus where you see this thrown mostly and why it doesn't work.
And then it's like kind of fall away.
And they try to move and then bring themselves to the arm while the person is basing up. Cisneros gets the position, and then he rotates on it, so he still has the shoulder control and the arm control as Kennedy goes to escape. So it's like he does it, and it's way harder to do it the way that Josh does it, but he does it
right and works.
He does it with the control through that position, which is why he's able to stay up on it. And it's one of the cool things it's always great to see a technique that like doesn't, in quotes here, like doesn't work. And then you have a guy that does it correctly with some extra pieces here on a grip switch and like
add
nice
some details.
control.
And now it
add
works.
the details, and that works.
Yeah, and so he follows him over and ends up with a face-down armbar, and then Kennedy does a really nice job defending this. Like, I thought he was done. It was incredible.
You saw Kennedy's face.
Oh, my God,
Kennedy's face was going, I'm going to die. This is terrible. Because we've seen Kennedy get his arm broken before in the Mateus Gabriel match at Pans. Like, and I was like, oh, don't do it again, Kennedy. No, you were out for so long. I want to see you keep fucking guys up.
Yeah.
He was out for like 6 or 8 months.
Yeah,
and there was a big question
elbow.
if he was even going to make it to ADCC, because he got the invite, he replaced his father, and then he got his arm broken. It was like, okay, cool. Like, are you going to? He had a great run at ADCC.
Yeah, he did.
But I was like, no, don't do this again to me. And then he
got out.
Guts it. He guts it out.
Yeah, but also
he even talked about in the post fight, his shoulder and like rib being sore.
Yeah. Well, but also I think something that happens, like they were rolled, like Kennedy wasn't trying to escape the mat by any means. He was just rolling because that was the proper way to defend, but they rolled so many times. It started in the center, but he had to roll 3 or 4 times in the process of this escape.
Yeah,
at least three.
3 full times, in the 4th when they stopped him.
Yeah. And so I think actually there was a minute when Cisneros looks up and he sort of sees the edge of the mat. And I don't know if we can blame this. Kennedy might have gotten out anyways. They could have been in the center of the mat and Kennedy mightn't have gotten out. But Cisneros looks at the edge of the mat. He looks kind of where he's at, and he starts adjusting the armbar in a way that he hadn't the previous 2 times. And I think that he might have been thinking, okay, well, I can't let this roll happen again, so I'm going to shift over this other direction.
And that's kind of what I got.
That's when they got out.
Yeah.
That's when it's ended. And so I think the edge of the mat might have been a factor. I mean, it should be a factor. It's part of the sport. Edge of the mat is part of the sport.
Unfortunately, as much as I would prefer it not to.
Yeah, but infinite mat might be neat, but
it is. Like,
but it's part of the sport.
Yeah.
And so I think the edge of the mat might have played in a little bit, and Cisneros might have been being nicely strategic and adjusting his attack, and then that adjustment possibly gave Kennedy an out. And so that's kind of what it looked like to me, but I'm not sure. Kennedy fought through that armbar sequence.
There was a point where it
was
like Kimura down, and Kennedy was rolling through, and I was like, that is far beyond, like, I have limited shoulder flexibility, but like that is far beyond what most people can deal with. And we know that's why I kind of was so concerned about the armbar, because we know how tough Kennedy is, and like he'll let a ship break.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that is deep, and it is rotating. And you have Cisneros, who we know as a really good and dynamic and quick finisher, like all those 3 things in combination, where it's like, oh,
this might end bad.
Yanking on that, and Kennedy's having to jump through the position, and we reset. And I was like,
well, it wasn't even a reset. Kennedy gets out, and they end up back towards the center a little bit more. And Kennedy immediately
they go back to the center. I mean,
yeah, but it wasn't like it wasn't a reset. I don't think.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you that.
They just were up again and then standing, and so, but very quickly after that, Cisneros drops down and locks in a triangle. Like, it's almost as soon as they're up. It's just they've redirected back towards the center of the mat. He locks in a triangle, and then
he switches this thing like
3 or 4 times, which we've seen Cisneros do before. He did it in Pans a number of times.
Yeah, I forgot about that until you just mentioned it, because I was like, I feel like it's a thing we've seen, because we don't see a lot of guys.
We talked about it, I think, from Pans, because it was such an impressive way to deal with the situation, where he switched to the reverse triangle and back to the triangle and to the reverse, because he's attacking these arms. It's brilliant.
Right.
And he did it really effectively in gi. Here, Kennedy is defending borderline stally, which he almost just got his arm ripped off, so that kind of makes sense.
But it's also like, I think with where this triangle is, like, and also Cisneros isn't just pulling on the head and pushing forward and hitting. Like, Cisneros isn't actively trying to finish the triangle. He is going for the arm that he has, which I'm kind of curious about, because I think that initially where Kennedy locks it up, he makes like one adjustment.
Where Cisneros knocks it up?
Yeah, sorry. Cisneros locks it up. He makes one adjustment, and I went, I think that he can finish the triangle here. I'm curious as to why he's still going for the arm the way he's going for it. Because I've seen plenty of guys.
I didn't think at any point that he could have actually finished the triangle. Kennedy has a good angle on the hips, and I think that this is like, it's a very small difference between finishable and not finishable here. But I think Cisneros was right. And so Kennedy had that sort of like, that grip that they tell you a little bit not to get with your inside arm wrapped around the leg, and they tell you not to get it because you're opening yourself up for a plata. But I think, we'll
especially in
later,
nogi,
right?
where it's like
in nogi, it's not as big of a deal.
Versus high level guys, like it doesn't. It's such a rare thing to see. It's one of those items where it's like I will take the defensive option I have here versus like the grip that in quotes there I probably shouldn't have.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Kennedy gets this wraparound grip that can lead to an omoplata very easily.
An omoplata? Who's the one with like? Who's the one who's not out here today?
Who's the one that can't talk normally?
That's reasonable, Zach. point taken, good sir.
So he wraps around, he gets this wrap up grip, but in this particular case, it's not like, sometimes people get this wrap up grip and their arm is just kind of dangling and hanging off, and they have their hands clasped together. Sometimes maybe it's under. Oh, sorry. Sometimes maybe it's under.
Zach's getting excited and turning his face away from the mic.
Excited. Sometimes maybe it's under the back, and sometimes it's around the leg, but then you're clasping sort of into your chest, and the person with the triangle's hips are square to the mat. And the way that this actually works a lot better is if you're able to pull that hip into you and turn it so that the hip that you have wrapped up is on the bottom, and then the hips are sort of like the person with the triangle's hips are sort of stacked on top of each other, about a 45-degree angle. And it's really, really difficult to get the leverage that you need to finish the triangle that way. And Kennedy did that immediately and would not let that go.
No, he kept that position the entire time. Probably, what I think it was 3 or 4 minutes of Cisneros cycling between this triangle and kind of going for the arm and kind of going for the triangle and kind of going for the arm. But like he never fully committed to locking and turning and like
finishing,
diving for the triangle.
So to finish the triangle, he needs to take his hips the opposite direction that Kennedy's holding his hips in, right? He needs to get his other hip on the mat.
Yeah.
And Kennedy did a wonderful job making sure that his hips were turned the opposite direction of where they needed to be to finish. And I really think Cisneros did what he should have done here, because I don't think that he could have finished the triangle. I think Kennedy was very, very aware of the triangle. Kennedy knows that Cisneros' triangles are solid, I think also I don't think it was going to happen.
The thing that I'm so used to in seeing this is like I see enough guys get finished even with the arm out where it's like, well, you're here for that long. I'm not used to seeing the level of like defensive acumen that Kennedy has. So it's like my eyes, like it looks like a standard. Again, I totally understand what you were seeing, and I see what you're seeing now, where it's like, oh, his hips are turned. Yeah, he doesn't have the leverage to pull down to the angle he needs. I've seen enough guys goon triangles, and I'm like, I think he could have got a little bit, because like, and that goon comes out of me. But no, technically, I think he would have had a very difficult time. And then as the defense of the triangle got deeper and deeper, you saw Kennedy more able to get posture up, and like, because he starts out really low, and he's holding his head low for a good probably minute and a half of the initial defense when his hands are in, when Cisneros is really diving for that, digging for the Kimura. He really wants that Kimura because he has the outside
and
leg.
Cisneros was doing a nice job attacking both sides. I mean, you have to make it obvious when you're doing that, but he was flipping back and forth between the arms. Kennedy just did a really nice job defending. And
it was for me. It was pretty incredible defense. Like, it's defense on a level that we do not see very frequently, and especially from a guy that is as a renowned finisher as Cisneros. It was very impressive. Like, oh, you have a guy who's got 2 swords in a big way. Has a shield too, but like he's more of a 2 swords kind of guy. And Kennedy he showed it at ADCC. He showed it here. Like, has very, very good defense, and he's calm.
He was.
Kennedy's calmness is very, very impressive to me in these, because he just defended that deep ass Kimura armbar combo. Then he goes to the triangle
3 times in this match. By the time Kennedy does anything that resembles mounting an offense, it's incredible. He's just waiting, and he's like, he's defending, and he's waiting, and he's looking to make a little bit more space, a little bit more distance, a little more leverage. It was again, we're talking about a guy in a triangle for minutes on end, and we're talking about like what we're seeing on both sides of it. It was still interesting to watch that, because you don't see guys that are actively working in like he was patient with a purpose, where it's like, I'm not just trying to wait out the triangle. I am trying to actively, very slowly put more stuff in between me and this triangle. And he did that. It didn't feel very it was not a boring situation.
No, it was
there
exhilarating.
was a lot of interesting things
I
happening.
watched it on a big ass screen TV upstairs. I knew it was a good match.
Yeah, it was
I
good.
cast it to the TV. I was like, I'm gonna watch this on the big screen.
So after about 4 or 5 minutes, Cisneros comes to terms with the fact that he's not going to finish the triangle or get one of those arms.
I think also Kennedy had started to posture up, and he'd like
a little bit more, but I think that Cisneros could have held that triangle till time ran out if he wanted to.
Yeah,
it wasn't so. Kennedy wasn't doing anything that was so. He was moving to actually defend, but he was still doing it. He
had not escaped, and Cisneros goes, "I'm gonna get the next thing because I'm too up."
And then he takes the plata that we were talking about earlier. And it looks the reason that you don't do that defense.
Good.
It looks okay, but it's still a plata is a lot easier to deal with than being in a very stable triangle position.
Yeah,
and Kennedy was able to deal with
the turnout for the omoplata looked really good, but it's again, I don't.
It's just a plata. It's not a triangle.
Well, it's nogi. Also, it's like you can count a very, very select few amount of times you've ever seen an omoplata finish at the high level in nogi. Like it's just you just don't have the control you need to routinely finish it on the top level guys.
Especially a guy like Kennedy that just got out of a very secure Kimura straight arm lock situation. You know. And then they end up just with Cisneros on the bottom playing some guard things. This is like maybe a minute and a half left in the match when this happens,
like that,
right?
yeah.
And so Cisneros is just playing guard. And I'm going to bring this back before we talk about what actually happens. I'm going to bring this back to something that we brought up when Cisneros killed it at Pans. Mm-hmm. And so when I watched all of Cisneros' matches at Pans, and every single one of them, the dude never stopped being aggressive, which I like a lot.
When we talked about
it and said this is not a strategic approach to jiu-jitsu at a high level. Yes, right? It is exciting for me as a viewer to watch you continually attack when you're up 10 points and when you're destroying the person. But as a competitor, it's probably smarter to get up those 6 points and then just
It's probably smarter to get the armbar and then hold him in the guard for the rest of the match, or hold him in the triangle for the rest of the match. Like,
and so
partially why I love Cisneros is because he, in this match especially, it kind of comes to fruition where it's like doesn't make the strategic best option for him, but it's why I respect him so much as a competitor, because he's trying to do the thing that we're there to do, which is submit the guy. He's not. I don't want to win on like a 2-1 or like when I could have tried to finish you and like tried to show how good I was. Yeah. But when it comes this match, he's playing guard. And
but I hope for him that he finds a middle ground at some point.
He
and
never
maybe,
finds a middle
this
ground,
match,
and he gets so much better at submitting guys, he doesn't need to.
Yeah,
that's
my
dream.
That's
my hope, Zach. That's my hope, Cisneros, that he just keeps fucking getting better and better.
And then he doesn't have to worry about this ever.
No one can stop him, and it doesn't matter if he's up. I'm up 47 points. I'm still going for the finish.
Right. I'm okay with that. Yeah. But in this particular case, he is up. He's just dominated this match. Mm-hmm. There's a minute. And then there's a minute and a half left, then there's a minute left, and he's still playing guard. And now we're down to like 30 seconds. And for some reason, it was an okay thing to do, I guess, depending on at what point in the match we're at.
It was a fine thing to do.
But
you're up 9.5 minutes
he's
left.
Standing
30 seconds.
Well, it obviously wasn't a fine thing to do because it worked out very poorly, right? And so he standing bases. And I believe that there was no real threat at this point. Like, it wasn't like Kennedy was about to pass, and so he's standing bases.
Kennedy was starting to get around.
He had sort of created some distance,
but he had sort of turned Josh's hips to the side, and Josh went, I can stand up and hand fight this for the last 15 seconds, 30 seconds of the match. I'm kind of getting turned. I don't really want to like deal with him passing. I can just like I can kind of get out of this position. He starts to tech up. He turns. Kennedy makes him overturn, and when he goes to yank and running man his leg out, Kennedy follows up, and he gets a body lock from the back. But Kennedy's like, I have like 20 seconds left. I have to go.
Gets the body lock, climbs,
and
gets hooks.
He doesn't take him down, which I thought was really interesting, because Kennedy knows, I don't have enough time to settle the scramble. I have to jump the back. He jumps the back. He gets the one hook in the side.
No, before he got anything, he jumped the back, and he got the throat grip.
He grabbed the grip first.
He got the choke immediately, and then he started worrying about legs, right?
It's funny, I taught this last week's class, where it's like, don't worry about hooks. Like, your chest control and your arm control is so much more important than your hooks. Like, in the community, we have this huge urge to get to it's like, because it's a scoring thing. Mm-hmm. But from a control perspective, like, I've seen plenty of guys finished with no hooks. Yeah. Like, if you have good control, and we know Kennedy has great control with your chest and your shoulders and your head positioning, you don't necessarily need the hooks to finish.
Yeah.
And Kennedy goes, yeah, I'd work with the hooks later. Jumps the back.
I mean, he did end up getting the hooks to finish.
And and he talks about that. And when he watched his own match, he goes, hey, I got the points, I got the hook. And then Howell goes, you would have got the points, yes.
But yeah, and then it ends with maybe 5 seconds left to go.
I think 9 seconds.
9 seconds left to go, and Cisneros has to tap, and it hurt me.
It did hurt me.
I mean, I love Kennedy.
Yeah, I love
he's
both guys.
A fantastic guy to watch.
Which is why
I've just been really rooting for Cisneros
a
lot lately because I really appreciate that he's so aggressive all the way through matches. He's going for subs. But he's entertaining to watch.
On the other
and
side
he's
of that,
so technically fantastic.
That's the thing I like the most. Like, we have plenty of guys that we watch and cover that I enjoy watching, but it's like he has too many holes in his game to ever be super competitive at the elite level. Cisneros is one of those extremely rare guys that like, oh, you can compete with the best in the world. And you have that level of aggression. It's like
the Dante Leon type people.
It's just such a rare thing.
Mix of,
and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I think that we're gonna see. I would love to see this match run back again,
dude. This week, next week,
like it could be any day. I would love to see this match run back again. And I think I still think Cisneros is gonna do fantastic things. I mean, this match he was incredible in this match, and then just didn't go his way. And it's interesting it'll be interesting to see if we start to see him change his strategy a little bit, and maybe it would be better for him to not.
I think no.
Who the fuck am I to say what he should be doing strategically? But
he does this well. He does so well. I think he hits guys with a level of not aggression is the right word to put it.
Yeah,
he is a little different versus most of his peers at that level, where it's like he's not going to go away. And he's going to present like submission threat and offense to you in a way that is a little bit uncommon at that weight class for the super high level guys. Yeah. I think it's an interesting dynamic. But I also want to, we've talked a lot about Cisneros. Props to Kennedy here for like the ability to be down 9.5 minutes in 3 different subs and like, oh, I'm still going to like work to win this. And
that's what I was going to say. Most people, even in that situation where you're given the opportunity to win, even high level guys, most of them are just gonna be done. Like, you've gotten mentally beaten up for 10 minutes, right? Yeah. You're losing this match.
You've lost this match.
You've lost,
and Kennedy's like
20 seconds left.
I'm going for it. Like, I'm gonna get that last. Like, I'm gonna
do everything I can in whatever time I have to finish this. It's impressive. The mental strength, which for a guy that we know will just let his arm break, is not surprising, I guess, but it is a level of mental strength that a lot of people don't have. It's very impressive.
To have the patience to sit in those in that triangle for as long, and then have the willingness to just like, when it's on the line, go, and then to have it work for you. It's super impressive. It reminds me of the Buchecha versus Max Germanis match.
Yeah.
Where it's like Buchecha was just like,
now I win.
I'm going to win. I'm just going to win. We have to talk Max Jimenez later on Fight to Win 70. Yeah. 170, the preview at the end of the show. Yeah. We'll talk about him a little more, but like, just decided like, I'm going to win.
Yeah.
So, amazing match. If you have not seen it, it is worth going and watching. There's so many little technical pieces. There's so many like, the ceiling for both these guys is so high, and it's so cool to see them matched up early in their black belt career when they're both very young. Both improving hugely. We're seeing more from Cisneros and Nogi. He can show that he can contend with, I think Kennedy is silver medalist.
Yeah.
ADCC. You can contend with and like take to task the silver medalist at ADCC. Like, you definitely deserve to be in that mix in a huge way. I'm actually curious to see where Cisneros ranks in the Nogi rankings right now. After this performance, I would bump him up to very high in those rankings.
Yeah, I think despite it being a loss for him, this is the kind of match that where your loss brings you up in rankings. Still
outstanding showing from him. Again, can't say enough about the match. It is definitely on the short list of top 10 for the year.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm sure we'll stay on that short list of top 10 for the year.
I hope. I hope not.
It'd be great if there were 10 fights that were better than this.
That's what I'm saying. I doubt it. Yeah. Go back and watch it.
Yeah, fantastic
very much
fight.
Also on the card, if I can find my notes here.
Almeida Taza.
I just have, Almeida Taza. Taza comes out super quick at the beginning and does what Oliver Taza does. He's like, I am going to rip your fucking leg off. And Almeida goes, oh shit, he is going to rip my leg off. And then defends it very, very well.
Yep. This is like the first 30 seconds. Taza drops, pulls guard, enters a saddle, sort of situation, gets to ripping heels. Almeida gets out, And then things got a little...
And that was for me the majority of the match. And then Almeida was putting pressure. I was a little bit surprised with the decision here.
I don't know if I was. I don't think that first submission attempt wasn't strong enough for me to think like, oh, okay, he's definitely winning the match now. You know, like it wasn't very tight. Almeida didn't have an extremely hard time getting out of it. Like Taza did set up the position nicely, but it wasn't. I don't think it was like very, very threatening. I thought it was
I thought it was fairly threatening, I guess, especially because I color this a little bit with my knowledge of Taza's game.
I try not to.
Yeah, and I also
right.
Yeah, and there's a big debate there of like when you score stuff, do you like you go for full lock on Paul and Miao? I'm like, I'm not really going to score that. Why? It's like, because he's never going to tap to it. Like, it doesn't.
Yeah, I don't
count.
think that's fair. But technically, I don't think Taza had this.
It's not fair. But it's one of those weird things where it's like how, when we've talked about it, gray areas in scoring forever. Yeah. It's like if you're in a guy's A game, or it's like the guy's never going to tap to a foot lock or like an arm lock. It's like, well, how much does it really count? If it's not going to win the match, like how much does it really count for?
But that's why we have partial submission point scoring.
Yeah.
That's why we have close submission points.
Yes.
Because some people are just never going to tap to that footlock.
Mm-hmm. Get me Paul and Miao.
Yeah, right. But so Taza is playing a kind of a strange game on this one where instead of being in guard and then attacking the legs, he's getting in guard, attacking the legs. Almeida's backing out, attempting a pass. Taza doesn't necessarily defend the pass extremely well, but doesn't get past. He rolls
to try to kind of open the leg up again.
Yeah, to try to open up again.
Kind of repeat.
Then Almeida backs out from the second leg attempt entry
and stands.
They stand up. They hand fight a little bit. Taza pulls guard again. Doesn't exactly get the grips that he wants. Almeida starts to pass. Almost passes. Almost gets back into position. And then they stand up again. Like this happened multiple times throughout the match, right? And so it's this progression. And so the reason that I think Almeida ends up getting this match is because he did appear to be the aggressor. Like, Taza pulled guard, didn't really attack anything, missed his grips essentially. He was pulling his guard and missing his grips.
And then he was going for an entry off of a grip series that you could tell he kind of didn't want. He was still attacking. And that's kind of why I gave it in my eyes to Taza, because it's like, and I do definitely understand that the argument for Almeida, but Almeida in my eyes, didn't have any real submission offense throughout. I need to attend a fight to win.
No. I don't think Almeida had any submission offense throughout, but I also don't think Taza had any real submission offense. Like just because the dude can hit leg locks doesn't mean that if he enters a leg entanglement type position that it's a submission attempt.
Right, but I'm saying...
Right, he didn't even get the entanglements in a place where...
He entered into the legs in that first 30 seconds of the match, and it required defense from Almeida.
I don't call that as... it was a submission attempt because we knew what was happening. I don't think that was a submission attempt. I don't think Almeida was threatened by a submission. I think that he was it was a leg entanglement, which can lead to a submission. It is attempting to get to a place where you can hit a submission. He grabbed a foot, which can lead to a submission, but there was never any point where that first, I could be wrong, but in my memory, there wasn't any point in that first attempt where Taza was actually cranking anything in a way that would have led to a tap. It was just all position setup. Right. And like if we set up a guillotine, we don't get points for it. That's just called a fucking sprawl. These were leg, in my eyes, these were leg entanglements, not submission attempts fully.
That's
and
reasonable.
So with
it kind of speaks to how it colors why I thought that I would give it to Almeida, because I consider a guy's game and like how he plays versus how the other guy plays into my factors of like when we watch it for scoring, it's not how they score it, but it's like I know a guy has a dope ass guillotine. He gets to that position like I'm probably going to score that a little better versus a guy that is like not known for a guillotine. Like I've never seen him hit a guillotine successfully. I'm going to, favor like John Combs gets your neck. I'm probably going to go, John Combs has a good chance of it. Pedro Rocha had a fucking dope ass guillotine on this where it's like he gets your neck. I'm going to go, there's more credence to that because he's a guy that is known for that. Taza gets into your legs. I give more credence. So I understand the argument on both sides. Sure. I'm probably in the wrong here. I'm good to admit that. Again, I score things in my head in a weird way. Yeah. And
I try explicitly not to score things that way.
I did when I was a purist and a good person, and now I've watched too much jiu-jitsu where I was like, he's really good at footlocks. He touches your leg, it's over. So that was that match. It was definitely a slower.
Yeah,
the
it was
beginning
slower.
is interesting, and then it gets
And then
much
it gets-
slower, and
yeah,
that's really the
it gets
dynamic of the
slower.
match. Pedro Rocha, go watch his finish on Instagram. It's
Yeah.
a really dope, like the guillotine that I like, where it's that power guillotine when your hips are stepped into them.
It's real manly like.
Dude, it's such a neck crank guillotine, and I love it because you can pass to mount with that. You can count to the side.
Yeah.
He cuts the angle with the high leg because he is in the guillotine grip, and he's stepped up high with it because he's cranking his hips into it and turning over. So it's this horrible neck crank short choke guillotine that is not favorite, not quite my favorite. One of my favorite guillotines because it's massively uncomfortable, and you'll get guys to tap because it feels like you're dying.
Yeah.
Great guillotine setup. I think that was probably submission of the night for a fight to win. Actually, I think Kennedy was probably submission of the night. Let me find actually the results here for fight to win.
Yeah, I think it was.
Do I have them up? I don't have them up. Zach, that's what kind of day we're dealing with right now for me.
Well, I say that we go through the rest of the matches for fight to win at the end.
Okay,
anyways.
let's do it. So what do you,
I think we jump. Yeah,
that's all I wanted to cover for fight to win. There's other great matches.
That's the
on
recap
card.
stuff. I think we'll go. We can go through the whole
let's
list
do
of
it
that at the end.
After the
Talk about
after the
Abu
previews,
Dhabi.
we'll do it. Let's
Yeah.
talk about Abu Dhabi World Pro. If you don't know what that is basically the World Championships for Abu Dhabi.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't run one in 2020. So Abu Dhabi has a weird like combination season. They do 2021 is part of their season. This was the 2020 Abu Dhabi World Pro.
Mm-hmm.
They will run another one this year, which will be the 2021. So this was the 2020 World Championships.
Yeah, a little weird, but I mean,
Super weird.
everything about 2020 is weird. So why not put a world?
Why not put 2020 into 2021?
Yeah, why not?
Fuck it.
Kind of feels like that's happened a little bit, anyways.
How do you want to do this? There's a ton of matches we can talk about.
Yeah, I got a ton of matches.
I am relatively scatterbrained, so I've watched them, but like,
Yeah, sure.
I'm not gonna lie, my notes not so great, Zach.
I took pretty good notes on these ones. It's just a matter of let's start with the men's. Do we want to start at the top of the weights or the bottom of the weights?
Where do you
Let's
want to
start at
Zach?
the bottom.
Let's start at the bottom.
56
of the weights.
kilogram. Andrade. Probably Andrade. Yeah. Andrade. Jonas Andrade. Versus Jennifer Roca.
Oh my God, you're not the name guy.
I'm doing the names.
You're the name guy, and like
I'm waiting for you to do the names.
I'm only like half here right now.
And there were no commentators on this, and I can depend on the commentators to give me the correct pronunciation of the names, and otherwise I'm just reading them.
Now you're depending on Maine, which Jack, you're not the name guy. Like
not the name
when
guy.
we started the show, like you've been a black belt for a jump now.
Yeah.
And remember you were talking about Paulo Miao, and you called him some weird.
I don't remember now. I can't remember
name?
what I did call him because if I remember it, I'll go back to it.
And I was like, what did you say?
I mean, that's the thing though. I still most of the time watch these things on mute. I prefer not to be tainted by the announcers, but I will occasionally turn the announcers on to hear the names now that I'm on the show.
Yeah. But for years you've watched.
But for years I just watch everything on mute because I prefer to give my own opinions and not the announcers.
It's just
who
so
I often
funny.
don't trust.
It just makes me laugh so hard because you're like, oh, I gotta like learn you're black.
Now I have to learn the names.
I gotta learn the names because Maine. We can't rely on Maine.
Yeah.
Well, so now we're relying on Maine versus John F. Rocha.
Yeah. So Andrade Rocha.
Let's go with that, Zach.
All right, so Abu Dhabi does an interesting rule that happens a lot in this, but if there's a double guard pull, whoever comes to top first gets a single point.
Let's do a quick recap of the rules for Abu Dhabi. So Abu Dhabi has the best rules.
Yes.
I'll stand by that.
My favorite rules in any grappling competition at this point.
Aside from ADCC, which is its own special thing.
Sure, yeah.
One thing that's interesting about Abu Dhabi is they change the rules frequently. They previously had a 6-minute time limit, which that is the only thing that I do want back. I think 5 minutes
is better.
Is a little short because a lot of these matches could have gone longer, and I would have been cool with it.
Yeah, but not much longer. I don't want 7.
No.
I think 6 is the sweet spot for this.
Six
it
is
seems
great.
like 6 would be perfect.
But they run 5 minutes. They have no advantages, and they have very aggressive penalty scoring. They will go to an overtime if everything is like equal.
We saw one this
if it's
tournament.
Equal on either
finals.
penalties or if it is equal on if it's zeros. They will go to a 1 minute overtime after that.
Yeah, if nobody has intentionally scored, so either 0-0 or it's 1-1 penalties or
correct.
whatever.
So if you score a penalty, there's no penalty, just your opponent gets a point.
Yep.
And if it is a tied score, the last person to actually score, not penalty score, to score is the winner. We saw that for the Gabriella Passanelli match.
Yeah, I think so.
Ended on that. So very interesting rule set. I think it's great. They've consistently made great improvements to it. and I think it produces the best action in the gi
aside
of any tournament setting in the world. Aside from some super fights have great rules that are great for other things, but Abu Dhabi consistently has the most exciting matches in the gi, which is why it's super hard to cover for us because the matches aren't parted out. Zak on Instagram found the timestamps for the starts of all the matches.
Yeah, I posted that on my Instagram page. Just get all the timestamps so in case anyone wants to jump through because it's an 8-hour-long video.
Yeah, if you don't follow Zak on Instagram, he posts hilarious stuff about fake science all the time and dispelling it.
Stories.
And it makes me on those stories. Your stories are
mostly stories.
Your stories make me laugh.
I try to keep my normal page about jiu-jitsu, and then my stories are just memes.
It's so funny. But it's always exercise science journals that call out BCAA.
Yeah, there's that shit too.
But it's you actually are a real scientist, unlike me. That's kind of a fake scientist. And you read papers and then post them. So follow Zak on Instagram. What is your Instagram?
It's actually Zak BJJ. I somehow got that. ZAK is how I spell my name, but Zak
so
BJJ. I got that somehow.
Also, if you don't follow the podcast on Instagram, Grappling _ Rewind. Follow the podcast too.
Right. So back to jiu-jitsu. There's a double guard pull, and then Roca gets to top, and in Abu Dhabi rules he gets a point for that, which encourages not double guard pulling and encourages coming to the top, and I like that a lot. I was
honestly kind of surprised we saw as much double guard pulling as we did,
but people were very quick to come to top too. There's a penalty for it, and they're quick with the penalties, so you have to come to top quick. But if you do come to top, you get a point, so it's less of a disadvantage to come to top than it is under normal conditions if you're playing by these rules, and I'm fine with that.
I watched a bunch of Wojcinski's matches here through the Masters, World, Abu Dhabi, what's it called?
Wojcinski was in the...
He was in the adult, and he was in the Masters.
Oh, okay.
And I think he also did Grand Slam.
Oh, okay.
But he won Worlds, and he won Masters Worlds, which I thought was cool. But Wojcinski, in a couple of those matches, double pull, and then immediately would pop up and get the point.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really interesting, because we know Wojcinski historically as a bottom player, but his passing and he's rounded out his game in a big way in the last few years, and it was cool to see him so aggressively fight for get to top immediately. He was very, very quick on that tech up, and it was cool.
I'm gonna keep you on track and go back to the match we're talking about.
Let's do it, Zak. I'm sorry.
So Roca comes to top, gets the point for coming to top on this double guard pull, and then but Roca does this strange thing where he's in a modified half guard. And it looks like he's trying to enter 50-50. And what he does is he just lays down. He just lays down, and Andrade, God, why can't I do this?
Why are you just Jonas?
Jonas. Yeah, there we go. And Jonas just kind of comes to the top and gets 2 points. And that's right? Yeah. It's weird. It was weird. And then Roca does actually play a pretty nice guard. He gets a modified X guard and gets a sweep. And so now he's up by 1 point again, back basically where he was before he laid down. And then Roca does it again, where he's on top. And Jonas is actually passing really nicely. He's playing a really heavy passing game at this point. He's got heavy top pressure, and he's sort of tripoded out, and he's got some nice pant grips, and he's coming around the outside and passing really heavily.
Which is always great to see at the lower weight classes, because a lot of times we see the guys just decide to do that weird gi footsie. But again, that's kind of why I like AJP and UAEJJF, is because we actually see guys open up because they have such a short time to work. So you're seeing passing at 56 kilograms at rooster weight, essentially. It's cool. It's rare.
But yeah, so Roca does this thing where he sort of lays down in the beginning of the match and gives up 2 points, and then he works really hard for this nice sweep. He ends up 3-2, and then he just lays down again and gives up another 2 points, and so now he's down again by 1 point, and then that's when Jonas starts passing super heavy. He is aggressively passing. I think he gets a point on top of that for a near pass.
Yeah, because they're pretty good about scoring. Actually, I really like how they score near passes or near sweeps, where it's
instead of advantages, they get a single point for a near pass, near sweep.
They also, I think they have more wiggle room for how they score it. Whereas if your hip touches down, that counts. We saw that in the Gabriela Passanelli match again, which is there was a hip touch and then immediately come back up, where it's I would not, and we watch more IBJJF than AJP, that would never score an advantage there. And in AJP, they were oh, cool advantage. And that was a determining factor in the match.
But it's nice because there's a defined rule.
Yeah,
right.
well,
It's not like a ref saying,
yeah.
I think that there was almost control. It's like a hip touch, you get a point.
Yeah,
you know, and that's
I
nice.
think again, I need to read through after surgery. I'm going to read through all the rule sets again because I'm going to have.
But there were clearly defined rules for
and
the way
also,
that those things work because they were really
have,
consistent.
And they also have review.
Yeah.
And AJP is very good about
Which we'll talk about that later because it's going to happen. Like, it's really nice.
But so they're defined. They have, and we're not going to wishy-washy on the rules. Which one thing I appreciate so much about AJP is that like this is what the rules are. This is how they're scored. This is how they're done. And we're aggressive with penalties and we're aggressive with like, ads and scoring.
But so then Jonas wins off of that, right? Like, so he's passing really heavy. He's being aggressive for the remainder of the match, and he takes it home. I think by winning either 2 points or he might have gotten an additional point in there for the another near pass. But he's essentially passing really heavy.
BJJ Heroes does not have the points.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, he wins. And so, but it was weird. It was a weird match because it felt like Roca wanted to play guard so bad that he was willing to go down on points.
Yeah, I want to
play guard, and then he worked
really
hard to get this sweep. And then
I think I don't get a chance to see him as much. I'm not quite familiar with his game. But I need to watch it again and just to kind of.
It was interesting. I couldn't figure out strategically why you would want to do that
unless he was
in
going
this rule set and in this.
He was going for like he wanted to get the last points, and like that was the only thing that I could think of was like
maybe
he'd go down so that he could rescore. And then he would have the last points.
But you could also just like
it was. And again, that's why I couldn't really figure out what happened.
It was strange. So, it was strange. But
men's 62 kilogram division, we have Diego Pato versus Iago George. They've met numerous times. And Diego takes it. Diego Oliveira Pato.
Yeah, Pato
takes it.
And so this one starts off with another double guard pull. George comes to the top, gets his point right away. Pato's playing really beautiful spider reverse or spider into De La Riva.
He combos that off very well.
Oh my god, it's so nice watching his grip changes. And like if you're a spider or De La Riva kind of player, like if you're into that sort of dynamic spider De La Riva game, oh man, this match, it was only like a minute of it, but his grip changes and exchanges and the way that he moved his feet around was really impressive.
The combination of his grip movement and his feet are so like it's so measured in like, but it's also quick.
Yeah.
Where it's like he's moving it very dynamically through, but at no point you see he ever like really gives up the pressure on the spider guard, and then in the combination to pull you low into De La Riva, and he threads his leg in with that outside grip there, and he pulls you down still. He never gives you an opportunity to like really, really well either make space away from him or to like fully posture up.
And I think the game that George is playing here fits into that or plays into that very well. And so George is trying to do some like stand-up dynamic passing, like speed passing essentially.
Which is kind of how you got to deal with Diego because he's going to tie you up and then posture you down, and you're going to
kind of disagree. I think that's what you don't want to do against a person like him because his ability to change grips and foot positioning is so incredible that you're not going to be able, like you're more likely to get tripped up.
Speed pass it. Yeah.
Right. You're more likely to get tripped on the speed passing than he is to get passed because you're so quick about it. And that's actually what happened here is that George tries to come at an angle for a speed pass, and actually like Pato hits a nice sweep and it's clearly intentional, but it's more of just like a quick trip than deep spidery kind of pass because George is like coming around the corner and then Diego kind of hooks a foot and gets him over, right? And so it's a quick trip in there because I think it plays into like how Pato was exchanging his grips in the guard, and it was really nice. And Pato takes the sort of the opposite approach, and here again we see very heavy passing. This time he's heavy passing at the knees and the hips, and George just doesn't really seem to know how to deal with it. Not that I'm sure he knows how to deal with it, but like he's not mounting an offense at that point, right?
Going from that position.
It never looked like he got grips that felt good to him. It never looked like he got a position that felt like he could start mounting an offense. Like he was on the run the entire time from this heavy passing.
Kind of for me, like rare for Iago. Like Iago is a guy we routinely see, like make it work, like consistently. And also, he's one of the guys like if you ever watch a guy in AJP, like Iago George is always a guy I will seek out his matches because he plays to the rule set so well. And there's so many matches. I think it was last World Pro, one of the Grand Slams, where he kept catching guys at like the 5 and 6 minute mark, and he's the guy that I'm thinking about when I'm going, I want to be a little bit longer, because he's the guy that typically tends to flourish, like throughout and towards the end of matches.
And I mean, he does eventually recover, but it's when he's able to get to this sort of modified deep half position. It wasn't like during the guard exchanges. I think Pato's passing was going really nicely during the guard exchanges, and then George is able to like he gets kind of higher, and then George is able to get into this defat position and recovers and gets a sweep nicely off of it. And then, but he can't really get through the legs, and Pato ends up moving into an omoplata, gets a sweep off the omoplata, and that's where the match ends with Pato up on points from the omoplata sweep. It was a really nice match.
Yeah.
Pato looked great in the guard. In that omoplata came off of another, like, George was trying to dynamic pass and and
gets a little kind of tripped up.
Right,
by
gets a little tripped up,
Pato.
and he ends up getting the omoplata, which isn't finished, but it turns into a sweep that wins him the match. So it was an interesting match, and this is I'm gonna harass Josh. I'm not gonna tell him that I'm harassing him. I'm gonna wait for him to hear it on the show when he listens, because I know that he always does.
Yep.
We had probably 3-hour long argument in the chat.
It was so long, I was like, I had to go to work, and I left the chat, came back to the chat at lunch,
well,
and
it was
there
one of
was
those
still like text going through the chat in this argument.
Well, it was one of those things that, like, I was at work, and so I would do something for 10 minutes, come back, say something. It was a long time. But so essentially, what Josh's argument, he very well could
Josh
be right.
Weinstock also co-hosted the Grappling Rewind.
Yeah, sorry.
Probably on next week after surgery, because he's gonna harass me after back surgery.
But so I said last time I was on the show that I think that the passing meta is going to change to heavy passing.
Yeah, and this is particularly in response to the Nicky Rodriguez versus Yuri Simoes match, where Nicky Rod used really heavy body lock passing to get around Yuri's guard.
Yeah, and Josh said, I agree with that, but only for heavyweights. I don't think it's going to happen in lightweights, because he said that lapel guard is too strong in lightweights, and that they're not going to be able to deal with.
Amongst many other things.
There were other arguments.
You're summarizing a 4-hour text argument in the discussion as much as we can. But
what the listeners need to know is that I was right, and now we have 2 lightweight matches where heavy passing was more effective than standing speed passing.
We're really going to open this box of worms. Oh, God.
No, Josh is a smart guy, and is also... I made some really good arguments. I just like to harass him. But now I have evidence from matches today, or I guess this weekend.
So whenever World Pro was.
Yeah, it was actually sort of like Thursday, Friday.
Wednesday. It was like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I think.
Masters World Pro was like Wednesday or Thursday, and these finals matches happened like midweek. It was all weird. I watched it.
It was throughout the week.
Yeah, I watched it
over the weekend.
Yeah.
But both of these finals matches, it looked like the player that was playing the really heavy passing was faring a little bit better, and that's all the evidence that I need in N2. It's good for me.
2 matches. On to the next bracket. We got the male black belt 69 kilogram division. Israel Souza versus Mohamed Martafari.
Souza's pants ripped immediately at the start of the match, which was interesting little factoid.
A little classic there. You ever had pants ripped in a match?
Probably.
Yeah. Rachel had one of her first matches ever at white belt. She was in a triangle, and she went to defend, and the girl's pants just ripped, and they never reset. So she's holding onto this ripped piece of fabric, and she gets triangle, and she's like, "What the fuck?"
How did that happen?
Oh yeah, we should have stepped in as coaches and bitched about that, because you couldn't defend the triangle because the grip you needed to defend it had ripped in your hand, and that's a reset. But it was new, and everyone's like blue belt, white belt, so we're coaching you. So it's always fun when you hear giant. You ever train with rock climbers?
Maine, we gotta stay on task today.
They will rip your gi, and it's hilarious. There's a rock gym at Hopkins, and you get rock climbers that come in occasionally, and they have the most
incredible
bullshit
grips,
and you'll hear like collars rip, and it's just like, bro. So the gi rips immediately. Continue with the match next. So I'm pulling a Weinstock this episode.
We said it was gonna happen. So Sousa's pants rip almost immediately, which is kind of funny, and Ali starts with the point for taking the top of the guard pull. It's another double guard pull, maybe, or just a regular guard pull, and Ali starts on top, basically. So there's a point for...
I don't remember.
I can't remember if it was a double guard pull, if it was just a regular guard pull.
I watched a lot of matches where that happened this weekend, and they all blend together.
And so Ali starts working these standing guard passes, and Sousa grips up this straight ankle lock grip single leg X position that we've been seeing a lot of lately.
Yeah.
Noticing it every weekend. People are really playing this heavy. And so he gets this straight ankle lock, single leg X kind of grip position, and then stretches Ali out. Sousa's stretching him out real far, and ends up getting a pretty clean sweep just by stretching his back leg so far back that he can kind of tilt him a bit. And so he gets the sweep from that.
It's like a standard tilt sweep.
Right? Yeah, it was but it was really cleanly done, and he did it by stretching, getting his legs as far away from each other as possible.
It's one of the first ways you learn to do that sweep too, which is always so you stretch them out, you kind of break their base that way, and then you can kind of tilt them over. It's cool.
And I love seeing basic shit done
Yeah.
at high levels. I mean, it wasn't like Ali screwed anything up. Like, it was just executed.
It was just like if you open the guy's hips far enough
Yep.
over, like he just can't base, he can't adjust his leg
Yep.
in order to deal with you putting him and pushing him over, and then you get to take him over. It's it's a really cool, like clean, like fundamental technique there.
So then Souza is on top after the pass. He starts working a pass and gets caught up in a quarter guard, and then kind of like you can kind of see him, at least in my head, he kind of like went, well, fuck it, and then started going for the armbar anyways, which is generally not a good idea. And I've seen it work out for people before.
Yeah, I have.
And it's the kind of thing that high-level guys, I'm sure Souza can hit it fine.
That's why I kind of shrugged, because I was like,
I'm sure he can hit it fine. I'm sure he does hit it fine all the time. I'm sure it's something that he should be doing. It's kind of the thing that I advise people that are learning jiu-jitsu and maybe even like mid-level purple belt, brown belt guys not to do still.
What's up, Zach?
Yeah, you.
Yeah.
I advise people not to do it in general unless you're like really good at it for some reason. And I mean, it wasn't like a disaster. No. You know, Souza starts going for this armbar from still in the quarter guard, starts climbing up, but Ali is able to roll out of the sub attempt and get back on top. And Souza, Ali doesn't get
the only time recently I've ever seen this finish from the quarter guard was Dern in the UFC.
Yeah, yeah, she did finish it
recently. Like, it's not something
it's not something that finishes.
But you do see enough guys like will be able to finish the knee cut out of the quarter guard, but that is pretty rare. They're not usually finishing from the half, especially in gi. In the gi, especially. Yeah.
So, in no gi, I think we might have seen it once or twice. Not finish from in the quarter guard, but this going for it in the quarter guard and then.
And the foot
clearing the quarter guard and then finishing.
But it still is pretty. You're right.
It's not something I don't advise against. It's something that I advise against. And so, but it's fine. Ali's able to roll out of the sub attempt, but Souza ends up on the bottom. There was no point scored for this one, which I was unclear about. This might be like just a weird rules thing. I think Ali still had the quarter guard in this case. There were no points awarded for passing. I think he still had the quarter guard when this roll happened, but there was a bit of an exchange in between. So maybe they were calling it like a scramble. And because there was a scramble or something like that, there weren't points scored. But I thought he still had quarter guard during the sub attempt and then during the roll. But there was probably some weird things that happened there. Either way, there was no points scored for it.
And I'm looking at the top of my eyes here to try to figure out like what happened. And I'm thinking about the scoring. And yeah,
it was a little unclear to me. Maybe quarter guard's just not a guard enough, and maybe the roll happened in a way where they weren't like, well, that wasn't intentional. But I think in some cases.
In many rule sets, that will score.
I think so. Yeah. In some rule sets, many rule sets, that will score as a sweep. In some, apparently it doesn't, or maybe it was. I don't think it was a judgment mistake because they don't really have those in Abu Dhabi. They have people watching the tapes, so I trust that it was the right call. I'm not sure how it happened, but. So it was actually that the sub attempt was at no cost to Souza because he didn't go down on points for the sweep sort of situation that happened after that. And then there was more standing passing from Ali, and Souza's able to get this like underhook leg grip and has this opposite sleeve, and then hits another like classic sweep off of this.
That opposite sleeve grip to posture him down is
so powerful.
It's also such a hard grip to break.
Yeah, and you kind of need it. I think he had that grip first. He had the opposite sleeve, and then got the underhook on the leg. Yeah. And then went for the sweep. I think that's the way you need to do it because no one's going to let you get that sleeve grip once you already have the underhook.
No, you're posturing up as hard as you possibly can. So you get it first and then you come underneath to get there.
But it was just another well-executed classic sweep in a classic situation. And then Souza gets the sweep. Ali ends up in full guard, and that's kind of how things end. So Souza ends up winning on points for the two really, really beautiful sweeps that he hit. And I thought this was an interesting match because it felt very classic jiu-jitsu. Like it felt like jiu-jitsu from... And then I don't mean this in a good way. It felt like jiu-jitsu from like 2010.
You don't mean this in a good way?
I'm sorry, I don't mean it in a bad way. I said the opposite of what I said. I don't mean this in a bad way. Like I like what I was seeing. It was more traditional things. It was like the stand-up passing was...
There's something about AJP that facilitates a lot of matches that kind of have an old school pacing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, and you see people will go to techniques because folks aren't just going to sit on a leg or sit on a position. Like both guys, when both competitors are forced to open up a little bit, you see a lot of really beautiful and great technique like this. I think, again, this is what I've talked about for years and years and years. When you don't aggressively penalize stalling, it shuts down so much of like really nice like technique and like demonstration of what folks can do. When you make them have to move, like you get a lot of like, okay, the guy has to stand here, so it's like I'm gonna go counter and he's gonna counter, and you get into like not necessarily scrambles, but where position changes is being forced by activity. I think it's great. I think we get some really great styled matchup. And again, the next matchup I'm talking about is fucking amazing.
Oh, man,
I don't want to cut you off.
No, that's it. That was it.
No,
I liked it. It was just, it felt like a very old school style match. There was a beautiful technique executed well, and smart jiu-jitsu. It was really nice. I enjoyed watching the match. But
this match was
best
fire.
Match
male black belt,
opinion.
77 kilogram, Pablo Lavicelli versus Espen Mathisen.
Man, this match was great. I usually get very angry about 50-50 matches, but this was some exciting 50-50 in here.
A lot of it was single leg X.
Yeah, it was a lot of single leg X.
Single leg X with that cross grip there.
Sure. But it felt 50-50 enough for me to think like...
It made it felt 50-50 enough that when you said, watch this match, make sure you watch this match, and we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
When I looked and 2 minutes in there in 50-50, I went, okay, Zach, historic guy that doesn't like 50-50, has texted me specifically about that this match is great. Very curious.
Yeah. So it starts with a double guard pull, and Lavicelli comes to the top. Mathisen hits a really nice modified X guard sweep pretty soon afterward.
Dude, I love this. And I love that he had the low grip, and he had the underhook grip that we typically, we're seeing so much. We talked about this literally the last time I was on the show. The same thing. We're seeing a lot more of this version of X guard. And you brought up, which I've now been thinking a lot more about and agree with, that this was a version of X guard that we see a lot more in the female divisions. So what we're talking about is primarily when you play the X guard, the arm that you have looped and controlling the leg that is either on the leg that is on your shoulder.
Foot's on your shoulder.
But it's now the foot is next to your rib cage and you're overhooking it as opposed to underhooking the foot. And it's something that historically we've seen mostly played in the women's divisions. The men will typically opt for the foot on top of the shoulder because it gives you the ability to open up and do some other positions.
I still think that's the preferred position. But I think people were ignoring this position for a long time when it was available because they were going to other things, and now people are scooping this position up when they can get it. And not worrying as much about. I think prior to this year, you would see people either try to get the traditional X guard or get nothing at all, whereas now they'll try to get the traditional X guard, and if they can't get that, they'll go to this
and they'll go to the single
modified position.
One thing that's interesting that is available in this modified X guard, in this modified X guard single leg X position here, is you have the ability with your far side hand to grab their pants grip. Versus if you have the leg over the shoulder, I don't think that grip is as available to you as it is with this low overhook grip because you're more square, which is typically why we're seeing this played more from the single leg X than that traditional long leg X guard, because you now can get your body square with them. They can't pass. They don't have a lot of options there to escape from you because the control is so good. They can't high step out of it because you have the top of the foot with your overhooked arm. You reach out, and now you saw Gutenberg Pereira do it in BJJ Stars.
Literally right after this happens, you see Lavicelli do it. Like the exact sweep that you're talking about. So Mathisen hits a modified X guard sweep, and then Mathisen...
I'm actually talking about the Lavicelli sweep. That in my head, that's what I was watching.
It was basically... I think... So Mathisen is attempting some standing passing, and Lavicelli locks in this X guard, modified X guard, overhook X guard sweep, and he catches the far pants, like you were saying, and hits the sweep.
And pulls it in.
And so then they've swept back again. Lavicelli's trying to play some lapel guard. Wait, did I mess something up here in my notes?
Nope, I think this is the right match.
No, I think it's the right match. I think I missed something in the way that I was progressing through the match.
Regardless.
It doesn't matter. Lavicelli's playing some
very good match.
It was a great match. Lavicelli's playing some lapel shit. He's clearly forcing it. Not forcing it in like a bad way, but like he is definitely hunting for lapels. Like he has what I think was squid guard for a little bit, and then transitions to the traditional worm guard for a little bit, and he actually hits a sweep off of it, which was really nice. Mathisen immediately responds with an inversion sweep. So this is another sweep. They're back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Mathisen hits this beautiful inversion sweep. Then Lavicelli's on the bottom again, and here he does a thing. This was my favorite sweep in the whole situation. Mathisen is sort of planted one leg back on his knee and toes, and then one foot up in sort of like a 90-degree angle in Lavicelli's guard. And Lavicelli, he takes his far arm, so the arm on the opposite side that Mathiasen's standing leg is, the leg that's like foot on the ground with a 90-degree angle. And he goes all the way underneath his butt, scoops Mathiassen's ankle on that leg back, and then pulls it so his knee is turned in the opposite direction that it should be. Like he really yanks the knee over.
It's a crowbar sweep.
Yeah, and
essentially.
It's a crowbar sweep. And he hits it really, really nicely, and then manages to maintain Mathiassen's foot across his body where he had put it to hit the sweep, and then locks in a lapel grip underneath it and stabilizes on the top.
He locks it in with that lapel too. And I thought it was very interesting because you see him and this is the match they reset, right? There's a reset in this match. Was it this match or the match? At some point in World Pro, there was a really great reset, and they made special effort to keep the exact grips, and it was a very locked in overhook with the.
Oh yeah, there was a reset.
Yeah. Sorry. It might have been this match then.
Levicelli stabilizes, reset in the center of the match.
Yep.
Yeah, this was this match.
But I loved they actually. This is how you do resets.
Yeah,
because they just
half-ass it.
They both had very, very exact grips, and the ref understood the grips, understood what they were doing.
Well, they also have video. Yes. In case there's any question.
But I saw the ref, they kept bullshitting with this lower outside lapel grip that was kind of locking in the leg.
Yeah.
And they kept changing how he had it gripped until they had it how he had it gripped, and they gave it back, and they were like, okay, this is the one that this is the one you had.
Yeah.
And then he's like, they're changing the foot position, and they get back to the knee, and okay, wasn't here on the knee, it wasn't here on the shin. The
they
grip
got it
you
exact.
had was here, and his foot was exactly here, and they were like, and they was like, okay, stop, and then they started again. It was
really nice
because they actually recreated the position and the grips and the distance. It's like, oh, this is if you're going to reset, this is what a reset should look like. It's not like, hey, we got it close. It was like, no, the ref understood where they were and what grips they had, gave it back to them, made sure to give it back to them, and then started. And it didn't feel like you were restarting the match. It felt like, we moved for the guys, and here we are. We're good to go.
That is, in this match, that is one testament to how AJP runs things. And the next massive testament to how AJP runs things happens 10 seconds later, because this is basically the end of the match.
Yeah.
And
there's 30 seconds left, I think.
Yeah. So Levicelli stabilizes on top at that reset. There's about 30 seconds left. Mathiassen hits this sweep beautifully, right? At the buzzer. You see the clock grinding down, and it was watching it live, or not live, but watching the video of it, unless you rewound and watched it a bunch of times, it was impossible to tell, right? Yeah. Mathiassen's hip hits the ground. Levicelli's hip hits the ground. He does get swept, but Mathiassen doesn't have time to get to the top and stabilize. He gets him so the hip hits the ground.
Yep.
They go to the film and review whether or not the hip hit the ground before the clock hit 0.
Okay, so funny, I watched all these matches on Antonio Zanella's page, where there is no overlay.
Oh.
And so I watched them essentially with no commentary, with no overlay.
Well, there's no commentary anyways.
With no video.
Yeah.
So I can only see the scoreboard on the side. So I didn't see the review. I know that Espen goes, and puts his hands up because he believes
he
won.
thinks he won.
And then immediately they're down, and I see there was a pause. I was like, are they reviewing something with the review?
Yep, they go to the tape and try to figure out.
I couldn't tell what they were reviewing. That's their review.
Yeah, they reviewed whether or not his hip hit the ground before the clock hit 0. And they came back and determined that his hip did not hit the ground before the time hit 0.
That's why.
But his hips were on the way to the ground between 1 and 0 seconds. It was great.
That's why. That's user review, and you're just like, hey, what do our rules say? What were we doing?
There's no argument. There's no one's mad about it. It went to video. We had a chance to be sure about it. We're sure about it. You lose, you win, right? And it was great. Really, really good match. So many technical sweeps. We can't talk about them all.
This match is
so
on
many beautifully
YouTube.
Technical sweeps.
Go back, watch this match. It is great. I play X-Card, and I play I play this game, so I have special reverence for what they were doing. Great back and forth match. Great use of the replay system. Great use of the resets. It was overall just a very technically exciting match, and you can take stuff away from the match too. So it was
great. It was a great match.
One of my favorite matches of the weekend. This is honestly maybe on the list for me. For the year, it was
a really solid match, and it can't be my favorite of the weekend because...
Well, no, it's not my favorite of the weekend, but it was still a very,
but it would have been my
very
favorite
good match.
almost any other weekend.
Yeah, probably. Cisneros coming in there and taking it away.
That match was too good.
Next match, we got Zaki Bahens taking on Tommy Langacker. I think these guys both went each other against twice.
Yeah.
I think I watched the right match, but I don't know. What notes do you have?
It wasn't actually was not. It was probably the least exciting match of like Abu Dhabi World Pro this week.
Okay.
Tommy pulls guard, and Bahens comes in real aggressive with the passing, which I think is what we would kind of expect to happen.
Yeah.
Tommy gets really smart, slows him down by pulled guard, or by closing him up into full guard. Tommy gets a point for a near sweep. Izaki gets a point for a near pass.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's about it.
That's
like there's a lot of not stale, like there's grip work and it's a very technical guard play, but no one's taking any real strong risks. They're not stalling. AJP doesn't allow stalling in that way. They're not stalling. Like things are happening, but no one's getting close to anything really. It's a very safe version of jiu-jitsu for a while.
Yeah.
And then actually 1 minute left or so, Tommy gets a sit-up sweep, but isn't able to finish it. They run off the mat.
Yeah.
And it was a really nice sweep. And if he would have just been able to like
Zak is a guy who's really good at using the edge.
Yeah.
Historically, he's been very, very. He's one of the guys that I kind of.
It wasn't. I mean, yeah, it wasn't. It was good enough that I would say that oftentimes he's going to hit that sweep the way that he does.
Yeah.
But it ended up in a more wrestling kind of situation, and Bahens was able to get off the mat. I don't even think he was really intentionally getting off the mat. No, not intentionally.
He's just a guy that's very, very aware of where he is and uses the space that he has available to him very well, and he will use it very well.
Yeah. But then they go back to the center after getting off the mat, but they're standing, and there's about 45 seconds left, and Tommy goes hard. Like, exactly the kind of Tommy Langacker that we are used to seeing. Dude is going hard for the takedowns. He did not give up.
Is a guy that can pull a rabbit out of his hat at any second in a match and win.
And he ended up not being able to pull it off. I think Bahens was able to fend off the couple takedown attempts for those 45 seconds, but he shot
very strong
3
wrestler.
to 5 times in those 45 seconds, was clearly working for something. And then Bahens ends up winning the match because he scored last. Which is the way that the rules work.
Which I
like that.
I like that it puts initiative in an even match. You're not waiting to the ref. You're like, who scored? So there's
no advantages.
It's going to continue to force action in the match. You're not waiting on a ref's decision. It's like it also gives you a very definitive rule, and I do appreciate that over a decision because it's like, look, here are the rules. Here's how we do the criteria. That's what we're going with.
Yeah, it was great. It's great. I think another showcase for how the rules work. Tommy had to put pressure on. In any other rule set, he could have let it go to decision.
Yeah.
He could have gotten, so I think it was a really nice display of the match, but it wasn't the most exciting match overall. Just good jiu-jitsu done in a rather safe way.
Next match on the 94 kilogram, we have Adam Wardzinski taking on Renato Cardoso.
Illegal guard pull from Cardoso immediately gets Wardzinski the first point of the match.
Yeah. No grips. You pulled without grips.
Yeah, pulled without grips.
And then same thing with the IBJJF. You pull if you have no grips, you can't pull.
Yep. And then that's followed up by a double guard pull, and Wardzinski comes to the top after that double guard pull. Comes immediately and gets his point for coming to top on a double guard pull. So he's up 2 points already at this point. Lots of lasso 50-50 with Wardzinski on top. Cardoso is able to pull off a sweep, but it ends up actually being tied because Wardzinski got the penalty point and then got
the first of the guard pull.
So that sweep only puts it at tied, and you're on top with Wardzinski on the bottom tied, which is not where anyone really wants to be, I think.
No. Adam Wardzinski, oh no, I'm on the bottom.
Yeah.
Let me do my game.
And maybe you have a better idea of what happened at this because you were watching it on a different angle, but the flow video, Wardzinski gets a sweep here somehow. No clue how it happened because the camera was zoomed in on the ref's face giving Cardoso the 2 points for like 10 seconds. And at the end of those 10 seconds, the sweep is over. And so, I don't actually know how the sweep happened, but Wardzinski gets a sweep while the camera is on the face of. So I don't know if you have a better angle.
I watched almost every Wardzinski match, and so I got kind of confused in my notes of I'd have he wins World Pro, and that's my notes this week. I'm doing this all by memory.
All right, so I can't really speak to how the sweep happens because the camera was sort of in a weird place at the time.
For some reason, I thought he wrestled him up.
Well, Cardoso. He gets the sweep, and then Cardoso rolls forward. And Wardzinski gets the 2 points for the sweep, but Cardoso rolls to base out, essentially, and then Wardzinski snatches the body lock from behind, and then they go out of bounds. But Wardzinski still got the sweep points in there. Like, he goes up 2 points in that process.
I only thought he got the out-of-bounds points. That's what I was confused
because he was up 3 when they went back to the center.
I missed.
So I think there was the out of bounds
that's what I
points,
missed
and then the
because
two
I thought he
sweep
wrestled him
points.
up out to the side.
I'm pretty sure that's how it
Okay,
went.
and that's in my head. I saw him get points for. I was like, oh, he got points for out of bounds because if you force out of bounds, then you get points for that. When again, I like the out of bounds rulings. I missed that he also got sweep points there.
I think that's what happened.
Watch the match. It was a good match.
Or he got points for almost taking the back, or
I just thought it was the out of bounds. He forced
my
the
interpretation
of
it was that he got sweep points and then got the out of bounds points, but maybe he got out of bounds points and then an advantage for almost taking the back, or he got an advantage.
Maybe that would make more sense to me. If he got 3 points there, you get 2 for the out of bounds, and then you get 1 for the advantage for the back.
And then he ended up getting another point for taking top on a guard pull, and
that was the third taking top of the match. I was like, oh yeah, like at Wojcinski, that is very different than the game that I'm used to Wojcinski playing, which is like Wojcinski electing to take bottom. He was almost like faking the pull, like you kind of tell he kind of didn't. It didn't look like he wanted the pull.
Yeah,
and it was funny because he did like little weird sit when guys want to come back up after they sit.
Yeah,
it wasn't just like the aggressive sit down.
It might have just been strategic, like he was ready to come up, and
but
he might have wanted the pull if he could
get
it.
But he was ready to come up, and he did, and it was cool to see him like be rewarded for that. Again, I like when I do like rewarding top position like this. You're not penalizing the guard pull, but if both guys are going to pull, like in jiu-jitsu, like you want to be the guy on top. So if you want to elect to take if you want to elect to take the better position and be given the better position for start, you start from a deficit to force you to work from the better position.
Sure.
I do kind of like the thought process there. Again, we've had Zach and I have had many an argument about this, but it's interesting.
But I like the way that they set up the rules. So and that's the match where Wojcinski wins on all those points. Collected a lot of them along the way.
Next match in the 120 kilogram division, we have Gutenberg Pereira having a hell of a year, defeating Thiago Monstro.
This was a one-sided match.
Dude, Pereira is getting fucking good.
Rolled him. Pereira looks good, and it was so
what does he finish? 9-0, 12-0?
12-0, I think. 12-0, yeah. Pereira pulls guard and is playing like classic spider, hits textbook spider sweep. Textbook sweep.
He's so long.
Yeah.
Like Pereira is so long from the bottom.
And that's in my notes here. He did such a beautiful job keeping Borges extended, right? Because Borges is the bigger guy in this match.
Oh yeah. I mean you're in the 120 kilogram division.
Up to 265 pounds for
these guys are
us
big,
American dummies.
Big guys.
But like size wise, looking at the two of them, Borges was the bigger of the two by what seemed like a good
40 plus pounds.
Yeah, that would have been my guess.
I would give him
30 to 40 pounds would be my guess.
I mean, his name is Monstro. Like
Monstro?
Monstro.
Yeah, Monstro. Yeah.
Monster in Portuguese.
Yeah. But Pereira does a really wonderful job keeping him extended, and so that weight is not as big of a factor if it's all spread out all over the mat, right?
Yeah. He can't ever really lean effectively into Gutenberg in the match.
Yep. And so he gets this beautiful spider sweep after extending him out that much. He ends up in half guard, and it plays a really high, heavy crossbody passing game. He's moving back and forth between half guard and quarter guard sort of fluidly until he sort of wiggles his foot out and gets the pass to mount.
Yeah.
Or he actually gets near mount and then
he gets the 3/4 guard.
Yeah, but he's moving back and forth between half and 3/4 and quarter guard quite a bit, and then gets free into mount. Gets points for a near back take. Gets points for all kinds of stuff. Like it got hard to keep track.
Finishes the match, and I thought he was going to finish the head and arm choke. From the side. Like
sort of looked like he might have.
He got topside head and arm with the 3/4. He eventually is able to like kind of keep his head super low in position and turn Borges to the side. Get behind Borges and then finish almost like shoulder to back of shoulder with the head and arm choke. I was like, he's gonna finish that. Time runs out, he doesn't finish it, but it was one of those.
Close.
It was one of those. Given 30 more seconds, another minute, like I believe that Pereira, because he's super high with the overhook grip where he needed to be to get that head and arm choke.
Yeah, it was a really dominant performance. It was interesting to see. Scored a lot. He won by a lot. I think it was 12-0, but could have been.
They said
around there at least.
They said 12-0. I saw it at the end as 9-0, but I saw it reported as 12-0.
Yeah, I think it was 12-0. Yeah, it was an impressive showing.
Super dominant performance. Again, Gutenberg has I think really turned a corner, and with the match over Mergali, with even the match against Penna that he lost but looked really good. The match against Hulk that he won. BJ. I mean, go back if you're less familiar with Gutenberg Pereira, watch him here for World Pro, but also go back and watch his run at BJJ Stars 5.
Yeah,
really showed how much he has improved in both his dynamic work and then also like his sweep game and his bottom game has always been a factor. Like even match, like, but in contrast to the matches we saw him versus like Tim Spriggs, it fight to win for the title, and then Herbert Santos. Like go back and watch that versus the guy that we're seeing now.
Yeah.
Just another level up.
Yeah,
Cool. It's cool to see him make those improvements and take these sort of victories. So that does it for the men's division. Anything else you want to talk about in men's divisions?
Nope.
Let's move on to the female divisions. Let's start with the under 49 kilogram division. We have a big upset, or technically not a huge upset, but it's still a pretty big upset.
Yeah, it's pretty big upset.
Brenda Larsa, I think is how they say it. Defeated Maciel Bastos. So I crawled through some BJJ Heroes stuff, and they've gone back and forth.
Yeah, they're actually 2-2. We found out. But the 3 matches that they had prior to this were very early. Well, I mean, they were early 2019, I think.
Like 2 years ago.
All back to back, basically.
2020. I think late 2019, 2020.
And in that time, Maciel Bastos has become this immovable force in this division.
Yeah, well,
apparently not immovable, but she has been very, very dominant and looked. And it's not just that she's been winning a lot; it's that when she has been winning, she has looked dominant. Her performances have been, she's been subbing people in dominant ways. It's not just like, I don't know. Sometimes people go on these streaks where they win consistently, and it's impressive. But you're like, they were winning, but like they won a decision here. They won this there. Like no, this was Maciel has been consistently putting up dominant performances until this time. And so Larsa is how we're pronouncing it now.
Larissa, I think is how we're going to say it.
Oh, okay. We're going to say Larissa. God,
last name Larissa.
We need a translator.
We just need someone that can like
knows the names, right?
We're just pronouncing names, Zach.
Yeah.
But we have no one on the Grappling Rewind team that does, which is why in our bumper to this day, it's like, hey, if we mess up your name, help us out. Also subscribe to us on social media. If you're not, again, I need to say that more in the middle of the show, but here we are.
So Larissa starts with a double guard pull. Larissa takes the top. Larissa's defending a lot of attacks, triangle, straight ankle lock, toe hold, some sweeps before Bastos gets underneath in a modified 50-50 and with the outside leg underhooked and finishes a sweep. So like impressive defense. Maciel was on the attack this whole time, like very aggressively attacking. Larissa's
then doing a really good job with like the grips and like really trying, like you could see Maciel continually scooting forward the grips and trying to get under Larissa and get under her hips, and like that seems like the way that Maciel wants to sweep. She wants to fold in half, get underneath you, and like,
or she wants to tap you.
Yeah, but
which was, I mean, that's what it was. She was going back. It was that was the beautiful thing. She was going back and forth between sneaking underneath and attacking submissions, and then when that submission would fail, she'd go back to sneaking underneath. Like it was a really nice back and forth.
The triangle, then she'd go for the underneath. She has to throw the triangle, go back underneath.
And that's what we've seen out of her a lot. We saw it out of her and ended up getting her the sweep here. But Larissa's actually able to hit almost the exact same sweep, but this time instead of underhooking the leg, she grips the lapel around the leg to maintain control of the leg. But it's a very similar sweep. Larissa's able to hit it back pretty quickly after. And then it's back to the same thing where Maciel is attacking over and over again. So I have here just a quick list: triangle, numaplata, back take, and then multiple sweeps in between all of those things. But Larissa's able to defend it off, and she started up a point. She responded or rebutted the sweep, right? She got swept. She swept back. She's up 3-2, and she wins the match, right? And so coming to top, this is a testament to the rule set, right? We as a community, I think, often complain about the double guard pulls and how there's not enough, like, right? You start penalizing people, but they're double penalties, right?
Yeah.
Awarding a person for being the aggressor in that situation, in this case, wins Larissa the match.
Yeah.
Right. I think Maciel she looked great. She looked like the Maciel we've been seeing. But she didn't play. I mean, it's not that she didn't play the rules the way that they want. But the rules favored Larissa this time.
Did a great job with how she addressed the match. Like she was able to stop Bastos' attempts. Like and also
her defense was incredible.
Yeah, and use them to do what she wanted to do, which was like try to get around, and start to work. And only at one point, and I think they both got a penalty for an activity. Was it?
Yeah, there was a stalling. It was a very quick stalling
call. But it was like
call.
15 seconds, and it was. You could tell they both kind of stalled.
Yep.
And they got a penalty, and they both stopped stalling. There was one point where Larissa is underneath trying to kind of double underpass, and I was like, okay, we're stalling a little bit here. But again, she wasn't just sitting and holding; she was moving, and she was moving enough to give Bastos the ability to start to make stuff happen and work. You know, while kind of trying to pass, but really trying to force action. And that's kind of what I thought was interesting in this match was you saw stalling, but you saw stalling in a way that was like not necessarily just beneficial to the person stalling. You saw enough activity where it's like, oh, I can't just hold this position, I have to provide you opportunity in what I'm doing to work, because they're going to call me for stalling, and then I will lose the match if I get called for stalling. So, what kind of more of a testament to the AJP rule set. Very fun match. Go back and watch it.
We see a lot
of, we don't see Bastos beaten very often, and Larissa,
she'd won.
Really put a stamp on why she's able to, not point consistently, but she took the first match that they had. Bastos has taken the following two. Larissa's now taken this most recent fourth match. This is definitely a rivalry that is going to continue to go through. Again, it's a 2-year, 3-year-old rivalry. Very interested to see kind of how Bastos responds in the future here.
Yeah.
Next division we have women's 55 kilogram Bianca Basilio taking on Ana Rodriguez.
Yep. This was a match between two people that know each other very well. And starts with a double guard pull. Rodriguez comes to the top, takes the point, and is passing very aggressively. Rodriguez passing low and heavy at the knees and hips. This is another low weight, heavy passing example, just in case anyone's listening. So she's passing really heavy, low at the knees, low at the hips, and gets pretty close on occasion, but isn't actually able to get any points off of these passing attempts. There was this is where the stalling call was. It wasn't in the Larissa Bastos match. This was the stalling call.
Was it?
Yes.
Okay.
So this was the stalling call, but it was the scenario we're talking about.
I watched it with
situations.
no overlays, just from a different channel.
This is the one where there's a stalling call, and so this is Rodriguez is on top. She's heavy passing. She gets in this double under position, then there is some clear stalling happening. But it's short lived.
The Larissa match had the thing I was talking about, but this was the stalling call for a similar
situation. But Larissa was able to not get the stalling call because I think she was. She was making more attempts, where there was a period where neither Bia or Ana Rodriguez were doing much for like about 15 seconds.
Yeah,
so.
They were both kind of sitting and stalling, or not being active, and they both got a very reasonable stalling call.
Yeah.
And they both got the call, and they both thought, okay, we've got to move again.
Yep. And then
it immediately did what a stalling call in this rule set is supposed to do, and push the action. But it wasn't like.
But I mean, it didn't push the action like crazy. I mean, it did make them start doing things,
but
and
that's
especially
Bia
Basilio, Bianca Basilio,
Bia Mesquita, Bianca
Basilio.
Basilio.
I know they're right after each other.
Dude,
and I'm screwing it up. I know.
Everyone else on the show has no problem with it. You and I both consistently have this problem.
That's why we shouldn't be on the show together.
That's crazy.
So Basilio is doing things, but it's very slow. And what she's doing is she's slowly creating distance, which is something we've seen her do before. She plays a very methodical, regulated game often, and she's very slowly moving to get the grips that she wants, creating a little bit of distance, getting her feet into place, setting up the sweeps that she wants, but ends up not actually being able to finish any of the sweeps. She does get to a place towards the end of the match where I think she's about to have the grips that she wants, but she's not able to fully get there, not able to capitalize on what she'd done. Match ends. The only points in the entire match were the penalty points, and so this is the scenario where no one has scored. It actually goes to a single-minute overtime match, which was actually interesting and really aggressive, but still no points happened.
Right.
And then in the rule set, if nothing happens in that 1-minute match, 1-minute overtime round, it goes to a referee's decision, and the referees gave it to Bia Basilio. Yeah, I actually think I misspoke. There was a double guard pull. Rodriguez came to top, but I'm not sure why she didn't get the point here. So it was 0-0. Rodriguez did come to top after a double guard pull, but maybe it wasn't a double guard pull.
Probably wasn't a double guard pull.
Maybe it ended up just being a single guard pull, and I misinterpreted what happened, but it was 0-0.
We need to read the rules more.
Yeah.
They change them.
They change them pretty regularly, and this is an event that we cover for this one, and it's a really exciting event, but they don't put on
we cover the King of
Mats,
and then, but we haven't covered a lot of them in the last year, which is really a problem.
They haven't done any in the last year,
We haven't covered the Grand Slams. Usually we'll cover the Grand Slams when they're on flow because they have more coverage and they're possible to cover.
Yeah.
With major events like this, without that sort of secondary coverage from an outlet, it's our team, it's really, really possible, especially with the turnaround time on the show.
Yeah.
For us to be able to cover something without
even this one with the 8-hour-long video, I had to, I sat down, but it took me 30 minutes to get the times.
Alone. Yeah, it's just tough, and that's why. So we haven't got a chance to cover them because we just don't have the manpower to be able to do it right. So we get to cover World Pro, which is awesome. It's just it's a lot.
Yeah, and so the match goes to Basilio off of the ref's decision.
Yeah.
I guess I kind of agree with it.
It is a very close match,
was
but
tough.
it was definitely one, I think, the slower match of the event. But I am happy to see that overtime there implemented when needed.
Yeah.
She gets the decision.
Yep.
Female match on to the
Now it's
62
Bia.
kilogram match. Bia Mesquita taking on Larissa Paez.
This match. So first off, I need to say that Bia Mesquita probably has the scariest stare down face of all BJJ.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Yeah, that I noticed that. So while they were waiting on the sides of the mats, they had their like just faces up, and whew, that is a stare down face that she's got.
Yeah, and but the scary thing is not just face; she backs it up.
Yeah, she's also
aren't you like Wanderlei in Pride, where it's like, oh, cool, like that guy's ready to go, and to like do like horrible things to me.
Yeah. So Pace pulls guard right away. Bia starts passing through it just right away, just instantly.
Like a knee cut to the side.
Yeah, knee cut, and she's going. Pace is actually able to recover, and the points aren't scored for the pass. But the momentum was set. Like, it was very clear what was happening. And then Bia does this awesome pass. Like, this pass is incredible. And
we're like 24 seconds into the match.
Yeah, 24 seconds into the match. This is very, very quick. Bia, so what she does is she's almost like a double under, but instead of both hands being on one side of the hip, so instead of one arm on one side of Paez's hips and the other hand on the other side, she puts both of her hands under one leg. And so in this case, her left hand is on Paez, the hip on Paez's right side of Bia, and then her right hand is up near closer to the knee. And with those grips, she grabs lapel with the hand close to the hip, and then grabs the sleeve with the hand on the closer to the knee. And so she's got sort of a double under, but her grips are on a lapel and a sleeve instead of double lapels on the bottom.
Right.
She stands up and clears the leg using these grips in the same sort of way that you would see someone clear on a double under, but instead of flipping the person up, it's like at an angle, so standing up like that and turning just pushes the leg aside, but the person doesn't have the opportunity to roll away. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Like,
she stays,
even if
stays flat most of the time. Like, it doesn't, with the traditional double under from either like the hip grip or from like the double lapel grip, when you lift someone and turn them, they have the ability to counter and go onto their shoulders. When you have kind of essentially the underhook lapel and that sleeve, when you turn them over, the only thing that flops by is their hip, because you have the control of both sides of the shoulders to stop them from turning.
Yeah. It's rare that I see something in a jiu-jitsu match like this and think, I'm going to put that into my game now. Yeah. Like, most of the time I'll see something that's like kind of already in my game, and then I go, okay, well, I'm going to add that. Or it's just things that I don't want to add to my game because I don't play that way.
Or it's, oh, that's really interesting. Like, I'm be aware of that now, but
not going to do it. This is something that I was like, this is not part of my game. I don't know how I'm going to get in there, but I think it is such a beautiful pass that I am going to find a way to work this into my game. I think it's incredibly technical and super smart, and it fits into a niche place in jiu-jitsu that is worth thinking about.
It fixes that really classic common counter to that double under pass.
Happens all the time.
It's going to
be that the double under is useless at this point, because so many people, like, you flip them up and they just bounce off their head and like are back in guard, or they roll over and then roll over again.
There's a turtle and they play the turtle game, and it doesn't really get you to where you want as frequently as it used to.
Especially watching at high levels, it's so rare to see the double under pass work out really efficiently. Like, you might get people that do it and then take the back, or that do it and eventually get the pass, but it's always sort of scrambly, and this version of it is just so clean. And then you have the option to do what Bia does here, which is she maintains that arm that she held on this pass, and instead of like letting it go and settling into side control, she yanks that shoulder up towards her and hits what is borderline a flying armbar.
So yeah,
she jumps into it.
It's
like
an arm drag armbar.
Off the pass.
Yeah.
She like drags Pez into her armbar and then ends up jumping over and then finishes with the face down armbar in less than a minute. This
40-something seconds.
40-something seconds for the finish. And holy crap! Like, I think that the pass on itself is a wonderful technique that I think can be used in a number of ways that And one of those ways is this armbar. I think that pass is something that should be done whether you're getting this armbar or not. But the fact that this armbar was available to her and that she hit it so cleanly is just, it's incredible. The technical skill shown in this match was astounding.
It was great.
It'll take 45 seconds of your life. Go watch this. You're going to watch it for maybe 3 or 4 times. So you'll end up at about 5 minutes because the whole thing is just worth repeating to just pick up on what you can.
There's a lot to take here. It's also like it's not super technically complicated. It's just done very, very well.
Very well.
Off of grip. I mean, you may struggle to get those grips, but it was
those grips are unique though. It's not. I mean, maybe I've seen it before, but not in a way where I'm like, wow, that's really effective. I think that'll work this way. Like
I'm trying to think offhand if I've seen this grip sequence in a match.
I can't think of a time that I've not seen it done like this.
I don't recall seeing it used this effectively in such a finish at a World Pro level.
No, I've never seen it this effectively, period. But I can't imagine. I don't even know if I've ever seen this before. And it seems very simple.
I think I've seen it before because I've seen people arm drag to get the armbar here, but I don't think I've seen it at the high level before.
From this like sort of double under setup, though, is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and that's where I've seen the arm taken from the armbar from the double under, but it's just it's still a super rare armbar.
Yeah.
And
I'm not even talking about the armbar. I'm just talking about the pass.
If I'm struggling to recall where I've seen it from,
you're probably making it up.
Or that, but I also watch a ton of footage and I can't remember where it's from. Like it's not something I see commonly.
Yeah, well, it was worth watching. Incredible technique there.
Next match we have female 170. We have 70 kilogram, not 170. Geez, 70 kilogram. Juliana Bosher taking on Rafaela Silva.
Yeah, Bosher takes this one, pulls guard to start. Rafaela is attempting some standing passing. Bosher gets underneath with the underhook on the leg and then ends up hitting a really, really nice inversion sweep off the underhook on the leg. And then there's a lot of action following that, but in the end, Bosher just takes it off that sweep. It's not what it was. It was worth watching the remainder of the match. Like that's the exciting technical part was that sweep. And there's a lot of back and forth, but nothing that amounts to any points. And so the sweep ends up winning the match there.
On to the final division for the women for the tournament, the female black belt 95 kilogram division. Gabriela Passanelli taking on Yara Soares. Yeah, Gabriela gets this via points, via very, very close points. It's a fun match.
Yeah.
This is, I think, the 30th match in a row that Passanelli has taken, or Prasanna has taken. I can never get her name right. Gabrielle.
Yeah. And my notes aren't showing up for this one.
Really, really fun match. It ends in a very interesting situation where you have Yara on top, and she has 3 points. And you have Gabriella on the bottom, and she causes the hip touch.
Oh,
with 30 seconds left, or like 15 seconds left, not even. And then Yara is passing and trying to get around, but because she scored, and now because Gabriella has scored last, it's 3-3. Mm-hmm. It's tied. She has to get the pass and stabilize the pass to win. And Gabriella, who's sort of been down, Gabriella was the favorite to win this division, 30 plus in a row at this point, undefeated. Has not been defeated in like 30
matches,
plus black belt matches. It's extremely impressive. But to have that thought process to touch it and then to stop the pass, and then Yara's just not able to get around to finish.
Yeah.
Very interesting match. This is definitely the most that we've seen Gabrielle tested in a while. Was very, very impressed with Yada here. And I kind of thought the difference was Yada seemed to get tired in this match. So at the end of the match, and you could tell that at the end of the match and towards kind of the second series of passing that they had, because they swept back and forth, wasn't able to drive as much as she wanted to, and sort of had to take a break. And you saw her kind of have to take a rest halfway through that driving sequence. And then Gabriella
momentum so much.
Gabriella was able to sort of recompose herself and then begin and get back to where she wanted to fight from. But it was the ending sequence was absolutely crazy because you saw just that hip touch is what caused the score, and then all of a sudden you go from Yara being on top and winning to all of a sudden being down and having to force that action and try to get past, and almost ends up getting past. She ends up in almost the top side position from like a Kimura, but doesn't ever stabilize it, doesn't ever clear the leg all the way, and so Passanelli takes it, and it was just a testament to really, really great scoring, and like how that can shift the dynamic of the match. Last to score is so important. Even though Gabrielle never gets off the bottom in that position, she's still able to cause the score and then put the onus on the top player. And it's it was just a great weekend of matches. It was a great event. cool to see a bunch of
Yeah.
new World Pro champions.
Cannot
Definitely
rave about this rule set enough.
Yeah, it's great.
The only thing they could do better is make heel hooks legal.
Make heel hooks legal. There was also something weird here. There was a pause in this match for a reap that I thought was very interesting because I misunderstood how I would call that a reap. Because Gabrielle...
I didn't understand what was happening on this one at all, honestly.
Yeah, it was a reap. So Gabrielle had the leg on top, and then her outside leg was crossed over, and then it had crossed the center line. I wouldn't have considered that a reap because it was not, you had no control of the foot. The foot was on top. So it's passing over the center line when there's no, but it's a reap definitely, but it's one of those like weird, I want to get away from that in the rule set because it's not, she is not controlling that lower leg on the shoulder at all. She's just passing her leg over, and then there's not a risk of like a knee injury in that position from that positioning on your foot because you're not controlling the foot. So it was a really interesting, but they stopped it. They didn't DQ. They stopped it. She pushed her foot back, and it was like, okay, cool. That's how you should deal with that at a world level. You shouldn't just, your foot touched, you're done now. It's like, it's not a knee exploder. Like, calm down. And that, then one more thing to talk about, UAEJJF doing a good job where it's like, cool, you didn't DQ someone in a world level finals match because their foot drifted over the center line a little bit. I just appreciate the professionalism of the refs, of how the event runs. Like, overall, it is
wonderful
worlds setup. Like better than the other tournament systems that are available. I
agreed.
I like watching it. It makes good matches. They make good refs. They respect everyone. It's cool.
Yeah.
So that does it for World Pro. Let's move on to the Emerald City Invitational. Like, this one's running long.
Yeah, well, I think that we could just talk about the finals match here.
Let's talk about the finals match. So this is a 170-pound tournament match. There's a bunch of fun matches throughout the night.
There's a lot of good competition, a lot of good matches in this.
It's the biggest EBI tournament that we've seen in a while. Yeah. If you like the EBI style rule set, it was the tournament for you. Yeah. Watch it, a lot of stuff into overtime, a lot of stuff finished in regulation. Fucking PJ Barch had a standout night.
Phenomenal night, and a phenomenal final match too. Like, he looked great in this match. So Sanchez shoots a single, and Barch sprawls into the front headlock position, just sort of powers him over into side control knee ride, which is something that I love doing. Like, if you're not specifically a guillotine guy, this is what you should be doing in this situation. Like, you sprawl, you get the sort of guillotine grip, but if you're not the kind of person that's going to finish a guillotine,
even if you are,
as
a guillotine guy, this is how I teach to address this position. You should always be grabbing that head control because you're in position to use it. You don't necessarily have to back out of it. They don't have the ability to get the legs because they're sprawled out. You turn them up and over, and then you put them into that knee on belly ride because you still have the control of the head. You don't necessarily have to commit the hand through, but you can keep the control there. Yeah. And if you are a guillotine guy, you lean a little further over. You have more control over your balance.
Sure.
And you're there.
Yeah, I see that. I can see that. But I love this approach to this front headlock position. It's something that I do a lot. I really, really enjoy what Barch does here. And so, but he does something that is really intriguing in this process too, is that as he moves over, he uses a far underhook to keep Sanchez extended. So he gets this knee ride position from this like front headlock. He sort of pushes him over, gets the knee ride, and then he switches his like guillotine front headlock type arm. He circles it around and ends up with an underhook, and then uses crossbody pressure and that far side underhook to really extend Sanchez out. And so he pulls Sanchez's arm up sort of over his head and keeps him fully extended, and he's in quarter guard, and he's in that knee ride, and he uses that extension to prevent Sanchez from gaining quarter guard as he moves from knee ride into mount.
He's able to keep the legs far enough away because he does that. He addresses the upper body, and he never lets Sanchez drop his hips and turn his hips into him because he has the shoulders flattened, how he's like lifted that underhook.
Yeah, it's very technically sound transition from this very low knee ride position.
He also does something really good where he opens his hips and he drops his outside knee into the lower rib cage to push Sanchez way further. So he's controlling the upper body at really 3, but 2 separate places. One on the shoulder to keep the shoulders down. He's using the other side of his body to keep the other shoulder down, and he's using his knee to prevent the hip from coming in and up. And he's maintaining all 3 levels of distance.
He's also controlling the head with his shoulder.
Yeah.
In this case, so like there's a lot of control points in this transition, and it works beautifully. Barch ends up in mount. And
Well, doesn't it not? Barch immediately goes from the side and then does what we saw Mirasaki do 2 weeks ago.
No. He does end up in mount for a little bit. He maintains the mount, and then what you're about to say happens of a sort of. It was like a aggressive mount escape attempt.
Yeah.
And so Sanchez sort of bucks real hard, creates a lot of space, and Barch uses that space to sort of jump up into a topside triangle.
See, I put that as Barch folding off to not get caught in quarter guard because he was in the knee on belly ride low.
I think that there was a period in between there where there was a mount. Maybe I'm misremembering. I could be misremembering as well.
This is a sequence I like a ton, aside from like the crazy triangle.
Yeah.
So I watched it like because Barch
maybe
opens
I'm
his hips in a
misremembering.
very similar way that I like to control the hip line with.
Yeah.
Again, it could be wrong. It's been a very long weekend of matches.
Yeah, right. However it happened, Barch, I know that there was a buck from Sanchez.
Yeah. Because Sanchez needs to get out because you need to, as the bottom player here, you're getting controlled. Also, Sanchez, props, and we'll talk about this in a second here.
Yeah.
Sanchez came immediately off of his match with JC Cavalcante.
Yeah.
Like right after, because, and we'll talk about why this happened, but like Sanchez is a gangster, had 2
Not
minutes
much time.
of rest, maybe like legitimately match to match. Like he finished with Cavalcante in a rear naked choke in overtime, went full length of the match into the second overtime there.
Yep.
And then 2 minutes later, you're fighting PJ Barch, who had a rest period, who is the bigger guy in that match, who is the more like stronger pressure wrestler.
Yep.
So it's like so for Sanchez to have the wherewithal to still be able to buck and push off and try to escape the mount from Barch.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot. I mean, Sanchez loses this match. Barch looked great, but who the hell knows what happens if Sanchez can have a breath, right?
Yeah.
So it does end up that Barch locks in a topside triangle.
When he steps, that step over the mount is beautiful because it's from the side control.
Yeah.
And then he steps out of the mount and then steps right back over. It's like
it's
the
great.
one we saw Mirasaki hit on Gianni Grippo, where it's like it's from the side and it steps all the way over with a long leg over the top, and then Barch rolls the top and then gets like a super nasty Kimura grip from that top
From
side
inside the triangle. Yep.
And then turn.
Man, did that Kimura turn. Like Sanchez's arm is going to be hurting for weeks.
Oh yeah.
It was a nasty Kimura, like bad.
Yeah.
But he finishes the match with the tap from the Kimura. A little bit about Sanchez. Maybe now a little explanation about what happened
so
there.
what happened is, I actually talked to Sam, the event coordinator, and the event runner for Emerald City, and talked to Jay Budo, the commentator there. Those guys are all great. Shout out to the finishers guys. They helped them put on the event, and Brad, they streamed the event. Like, we know all these guys on the Grappling. Very, very, we interacted with these guys a lot. They were kind enough to basically all like talk to me and like, hey, what happened? Because all of the sudden, we didn't see the final match, which was supposed to be John Calistine versus Stingray.
Yep.
And they was on the broadcast like, oh, something weird's happening. Like, what happened at the event was in PA, there's a commission, and you have to submit ahead of time. It's regulated, and you have to have a doctor at your event. You pay a fee and pay for the doctor, and PA provides you a commission-sanctioned doctor. Apparently, there was a miscommunication with the commission and the doctor that I was like, I'm going to be there till 9. Doctor had to work at 6 a.m. the next morning and was like, it's like 11, I think it was like 11 o'clock at night. And the doctor's like, I have to go. Like, I can't be here anymore. Like, they told me it was going to be like earlier in the day. I can't be here. I have to go. It's like, it's always a couple more matches. It's like, I can't be here anymore. I have to go. And so, he basically was like, I'm leaving now. And so like, okay, we can run the super fight match, or we can run your match right now as he's leaving the building. And they talked to the guys, and Sanchez was backstage. Was like, yeah, we'll do it, and because they were going to do it there or at the finishers next day.
Fucking props to him.
Yeah, dude. Like props to
props
Sanchez
to that dude.
for that dude to go like, oh, cool. I just finished third round.
Like you still haven't even caught your fucking breath at that point.
And you've been subbing guys and looking great through the tournament. You just had a really tough match in the semifinals versus JZ Cavalcante that went to overtime, and you got
twice, 2 overtimes.
And then you're gangster enough to go,
sure.
Oh, I got to fight PJ Barch in 1 minute right now.
Let's
we'll do that.
Yeah, fucking badass.
Those guys,
it sucks that he ended up not winning the match, but he looked great all day.
Yeah,
and
Barch looked good all day.
Damn, that's badass to just be like, yeah, I'll do it. Bring it.
And that's what I appreciate.
Unfortunate scenario though.
Yeah, it sucks. Again, I really do appreciate when athletes step up, though. Like Sanchez, look, we want to see the match. We want to see it run. We can either run it tomorrow at finishers. That's not going to be streamed, or maybe it's going to be streamed partially, but it's not on the stage here tonight for the guys that want to see it, that have followed the tournament. Like, I really appreciate like Alan Sanchez and PJ Barch with like less rest, like stepping into that match to get it done. Into like, you only got a couple minutes left. To get it done on the broadcast. props to those guys. Props to everyone for like making it work in a tough situation.
Yep.
It is really great to see, you know, when they can work through those situations, and so
that's what happens when you have to do things through the state.
Yeah, commissions get squirrely sometimes, but you know, made the best of what they could. And again, they have announced a second event that is coming up, and 145-pound bracket.
Yeah,
your boy Josh Cisneros might be in that.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
Some other names. Talked to Sam today about it. It may be, not sure if it's going to be, probably not going to be East Coast. It may be in like Texas or another place.
Okay.
If you have a place that you would like to see that event, you should follow Emerald City and you should shoot them a message with like where you want to see that event take place. Baltimore, I'd love it. Yeah, Baltimore. We got some great at the event center. There's a bunch of great places you could have it.
Yeah.
So yeah, great event. I'd love to see another one. Again, we don't see as many EBI style tournaments anymore on like Flow.
Yeah.
So you know, if you are, it gives something
it's
for
a rule
those
set that certain people really, really like, and
yeah.
I can understand why people like the EBI rule set.
Especially
it's not my favorite, but like I get it.
Tournaments, it gives you something. I think it's very viewer friendly if you're trying to understand what's happening, because at the end you watch, you see it overtime, and you get it. Like, it may not be my favorite rule set, but I do appreciate the ease of being able to watch it, where it's like, look, the guy submits in the regulation. If there's no submission, they go to this overtime thing and they announce, okay, it's either ride time or it's submission.
Yeah.
It's very easy to onboard and understand. And I know, again, may not be my favorite rule set, but there's been plenty of guys that like I've talked to over the years that like get into jiu-jitsu through watching an EBI style tournament. So if that's your cup of tea, if you like to see it,
great.
Like, you know,
and and they run a great tournament with great competitors.
Yeah, it's awesome. And the bracket was awesome. We didn't get a chance to go through all the matches because I think
we got a lot of time.
We're already 2 hours into the show at this point. But PJ Barch, 4 subs. We had John Combs in this, finishing a really great guillotine or earlier in the thing. Yeah. We had a John Combs match versus PJ Barch. That PJ Barch finishes Combs via an outside heel hook, or I think maybe an inside heel hook. Yeah, inside heel hook in like a couple of minutes. This tournament, in a big way, is going to shake up the Flow Grappling rankings, and I am jazzed for it.
Yep.
So hopefully we're also going to see the John Calistine match versus Ray De Leon.
Yeah,
we haven't seen John in a minute here. Also haven't seen Stingray in a bit here. I would love to see those. There's a rumor that they're going to get that done soon. Hopefully get those guys competing, because those are both guys that could be popping into the rankings. Mm-hmm. Cannot wait to see how Emerald City affects the rankings, because
they're legit guys doing legit shit, right?
Yeah,
This impacts things, and it's really nice to see Emerald City do well with it, because
and they're not your inaugural event, and even through adversity, like with the commission issues, and like you still put on a really great event, and like it streamed well, and like I'm very, very happy. I would love to see those guys run more events. It's not like they're going to.
Yeah.
So win for everyone. Guys getting paid. PJ Barch winning $5,000. Finishing a bunch of guys. Definitely some great footage to watch for Barch. Barch talked about in his post-fight interviews how he kind of addressed versus the Wilty match. He has personal stuff going on. He goes, no excuses. I came out here to win and show what I can do. And, you know, really showcases why we're so hot on Barch recently, coming off that knee injury in 2019 after ADCC trials. I think we will definitely see him in a good match versus Nicky Ryan. I'm extremely excited to see him on April 30th take on Ryan. And just like, there will be some things to preview.
It'll be really interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You have a lot of new tape study to watch on that. So
exciting stuff this week.
That does it for Emerald City Invitational.
We'll run through the flow, or run through the fight to win.
Let's do it.
Final results.
We got let's do previews and then let's run through it.
Oh, sure. Okay.
So next week we got Fight to Win 170. This one's headlined by Josh Hinger versus Rafael Formiga Barbosa. I assume this is for the title. I think Barbosa may have just lost that, but I know Barbosa had the title at middleweight or at welterweight for a long time. Middleweight, I think.
I think it's middle.
Yeah, it could be a Masters match too, because both guys are Masters. I think.
I kind of assumed it was a Masters
Formiga
match,
has had the Masters title, or has the Masters title. I know that Formiga has had Fight to Win titles off and on forever.
Either way, should be a good match.
Yeah. It's a tough match for Formiga.
It's a tough match. I think I have to pick Hinger on this. Hinger's looked good and bad, and looking good and bad and good and bad, but I think lately in the gi, this is a gi match, I'm assuming.
They have a picture of Hinger in the gi and Formiga in the gi as well, so I assume it's a gi, because you have
I've liked seeing
pictures.
Hinger in the gi lately. You know, he won Masters Worlds in the gi pretty recently and looked dominant in those matches, and it was something that he'd tried for a little while.
We talked about it was one of the big accomplishments for him, was like wanting to win Masters Worlds and finally won it.
Yeah, and so I think I have to pick Hinger here. He's been looking good lately, especially in the gi.
It's a really tough match for Formiga.
It's a tough match, but I think it's definitely not going to be not competitive. Like, it'll be an interesting match.
And the interesting thing is here, Formiga has so much more experience in the fight to win. He's been a long-standing champion of fight to win. I am curious to see. Hinger
plays into it.
Hinger has a style that is pretty aggressive. I think is tailor-made to fight to win. He's really heavy on the submissions, really heavy on the neck and on the footlocks.
Yeah.
I just don't know if he's going to be able to get to Barbosa's neck, because Barbosa is a guy that's notoriously like maintains positional control very, very well, and can kind of play stalemate a little bit at times. It wouldn't surprise me to see Hinger grab a neck here. It also wouldn't surprise me to see Barbosa sort of like take Hinger out of the game that Hinger wants to play and like just positionally work him there.
Yeah, and Hinger can sometimes just have a bad day.
Yeah,
he's one of those guys that he's an incredible competitor. But he has bad days sometimes.
And I also appreciate about Hinger, as we talked about on the Mapburn podcast, that him and Keenan run sometimes. Basically on a super fight, like looking to put on a good performance and show, because that's how you get paid and asked. But so he takes a special emphasis and like pride in putting on good super fight matches, and so at the expense of sometimes like maybe not making tactically the best decisions, because he's looking to do that. So
which
again,
I can appreciate.
Which I appreciate, and he's talked about that. And so we haven't seen him in a bit in a super fight.
Yep,
excited to see him on a super fight again. Also on this card, we have Mateus Luna taking on Jonatas Gracie.
Yeah, I think in fight to win rules, I might actually pick Mateus Luna.
Really?
I might under this rule set. Jonatas Gracie is an incredible player. I don't know. He doesn't attack subs as aggressively as a lot of the people that really do well in fight to wins do. And so I could see a scenario where I think overall, in most rule sets, Jonatas Gracie is a favorite here. I think in this particular rule set, Mateus Luna has a better chance than other rule sets, and I think it's closer than people would expect.
You have actually just changed my thought process on this. I was like, that's probably pretty clear for Jonatas Gracie. For me, again, Mateus Luna.
If this is an IBJJF match, I'm calling Jonatas Gracie every time.
But you're right. Mateus Luna has a style that definitely Jonatas Gracie is very much like a position, get to you to top, to turn you over. He takes some time to set up what he's looking to do.
And he's not throwing a sub every 2 seconds. No. Which is, we see a lot of people look like they win a match and not throw a sub, and then their opponent throw 2 subs, although they got beat most of the match positionally, and still win the match. We saw that last fight to win that I was on the show for sure.
Yep.
So I think that this is a case where normally I pick Jonatas Gracie on this, because I think that he is overall the better jiu-jitsu player on average, but maybe in this rule set, Luna takes it.
I'm freaking out, tabbing through everything right now.
Yeah, I know.
Next match, we have Max Jimenez versus Guillermo Augusto.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of Augusto. I personally haven't watched a lot of Augusto recently.
No.
I'm not sure if he's done stuff that I haven't seen.
Was
but
Max Jimenez on a fight to win a couple months ago?
I don't know if he was on a fight to win. Maybe. I usually watch a lot. I like Max a lot.
Yeah, because you're built like Max Jimenez.
Yeah.
He's about your size. And like you're...
I pay attention to Max. I pretty much watch every Max match that I possibly can, because I'm always
he's also a local guy now.
Yeah, he's local now. I'm going to try to get... Now that I'm all vaxxed up and stuff, I'm going to try to see if I can get some training with him. But I watch a lot of him because he does shit where I'm like, oh, that slots perfectly into this thing that I'm already doing. Why don't I just do that? So I watch a lot of Max. I don't know if he's had anything recently. He had a killer run at Pans this year, which wasn't that long ago at this point, but it was still a little while.
December?
I think December.
Something like that. Yeah, December of 2020.
I'm not sure what he's done since then. Probably something.
I thought he had one super fight, but I could be wrong about that. But regardless, I was very, very impressed with him and how he looked at Pans.
I'm not sure if this is gi or no gi, but
I don't know offhand. Guillermo Augusto, it could be either. We've seen Max kind of jump between the two pretty readily, which I appreciate, but I don't know. I'm gonna go Max here just because I always think about the Max Jimenez versus Buchecha match.
That match, damn. He looked so good in that match.
To this day, whenever I think of Max Jimenez, and I'm like always on the line of like, do I pick him or not? I think to that match, I'm like, you put Buchecha.
He also, the dude also had a pretty good match against Gordon Ryan.
Yeah.
Right? Which nobody does, right? Nobody has a good match against Gordon Ryan. But
I interviewed him before ADCC when he got the last invite spot, because I did a photo shoot down there at Ground Control where he was at. And he was like, I want that match back. He's like, I think I can make the changes, and like I think I can beat him now. I'm like, All right, you've convinced me, Max Jimenez. I would like to see that again too.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't mind seeing that match again. Just
I'd love to see him do some more Nogi matches, kind of pop into the rankings and like be like more of a feature on some of the flow stuff.
Sure.
And I think he's a good showing versus Augusto. I think that could definitely be in the cards.
Yeah.
Again, I unfortunately just haven't watched as much of Guillermo as I'd like to kind of speak more about his game.
I'm always excited to see Max come out though, and I'm going to pick him to win because I want that to happen.
Reasonable enough. So let's go through the results of Fight to Win 169. We have Kennedy Maciel defeating Josh Cisneros via rear naked choke. That was Friday night for the black belts. Gabriel Miranda defeating Oliver Taza via decision. Pedro Rocha defeating Tony Tipton via guillotine. That was submission of the night for the black belts. Marcos Anelante defeating Alex Martins via decision. We have Rodrigo Lopez defeating Salman Choran via ankle lock. We have Laura Halleck defeating Shala Lindsay via decision. Under the purple belts, we have Jay Arnold defeating Andres Alencar via decision. Under the blue belts, we have Joe Ruiz defeating Eric Salvador Martinez via split decision. That was Friday night. For the blue belts, we have Christian Volk defeating Michael Cup via decision. We have Marcio Anez defeating Nathan Hernandez via heel hook. That was submission night for the blue belts. Love seeing heel hooks at blue belt. Abraham La Malenda defeating Julio Adversaria via rear naked choke. We have Elzar Guiardo defeating Eric Gibbons via triangle. We have James Gonzalez defeating Roberto Chambers via decision. We have Kobe Hernandez defeating Nelson Brownes Jr. via triangle. On the kids and teens results, we have Brooke Hernandez defeating Trevor Carter via split decision. We have Michael Francis defeating Tyler Cox via triangle. We have Layla Watkins defeating Sarah De La Pena via armbar. We have Adam Merchant defeating Angel Pentio via split decision. We have Frigo Salio defeating Bradley Ramey via split decision. That was Friday night for the kids and teens. We have Jess Thompson defeating Nico Valon via triangle. We have Diego Vasquez defeating Jaden Becker via decision. We have Lucy Rose defeating Hodar Vilera via armbar. That was submission of the night for the kids and teens. And we have Hannah Watkins defeating Lily Ray via split decision. That does it for the results for Fight to Win 169. I was going to say on the next one because that's usually in the middle of the show. But that does it for this week on the show.
Yeah.
Zach, what do you got going on this week?
This week I got nothing, but I did get into a real physical fight last week.
Oh, right.
Fucking ridiculous. I'm a 33-year-old doctor. This goddamn, I'm so pissed about it still not because I got into a fight. I'm pissed about it for a lot of reasons, but the biggest thing that I'm pissed about is that for like the past 15 years, I have repeatedly said, look, I train because I enjoy training. If I get myself into a physical fight, I'm going to feel like a fucking idiot because I'm like an adult, right? I'm a goddamn adult. Lo and behold, fucking 2020. I still blame 2020 on this. I recognize that's not 2020, but I blame 2020 for it. So I'm in the fucking gym.
Not the training,
not the gym that you're supposed to fight people.
The lift
heavy weights and apparently have douchebags around every once in a while. Gym, and so like I actually really really like my gym. There's tons of nice people. People are generally really open.
It's
and
the gym I do PT at.
Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful place.
Middle of the fucking city.
Middle of the city.
I hate driving in the city, and I'll still drive down there. That's how nice it is.
Yeah, I ride my little scooter, so yeah, 250-pound me on my scooter.
I want to see that. Like a Lime?
Yeah. No, I own one.
Do you?
Yeah. That
seems like a bad idea.
I've had it for like 2 years. It's
really?
great.
Oh,
yeah.
I've seen it in your house. Yeah. Right.
So I'm in the gym doing my deadlifts or whatever, and there's a guy around me without a mask on, which, whatever. I guess it's fine.
It's just it's policy.
It's the place's policy, right? The gym's policies. You have to have your mask on all the time.
It's a medical facility with like PT and surgery
and
rehab,
old people,
and
people that are at risk and people with compromised immune systems and shit like that, right? And so. Fine. I'm not the kind of person that's like, I'm not mask police guy by any means. I normally don't give a shit. But the dude was just like walking around all over the place without the mask on, like on the phone and in the gym, which is something that bothers me in the first place. Like, get off your fucking phone and lift weights, you piece of shit. But that's beside the point. There's a lot of people that come in and don't know that the policy is that the masks are supposed to be on all the time. So I said, hey man, we have to keep masks on at all the times. Just like I've said to other people here and there when it looks like maybe they just don't know what the policy is. Yeah. And most of the time people are like, oh, cool, thanks. I didn't know. I'll take care of the situation. Instead, the guy asked if I worked there, and then I said no. And then he said, well, then don't tell another man what to do. This guy is like maybe 6 foot, but also no more than 170 pounds soaking wet.
Zach, you're about 6'3", 250.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just for the audio folks here.
For context. Right. And so then like there's a little bit of back and forth, and I start getting really annoyed with this guy. No, because he said, don't tell another man what to do. And I said, well, I'm not, but the establishment is because it's the policy. which I thought was a very reasonable response and could have just ended things. But then he snapped back about some other bullshit, and I got a little sassier, and things escalated a bit. And then in the process, he had put his mask up initially, but in the process of this, it kind of fell down a little bit. And so it seemed like things were going to end, but then I went, hey man, your mask fell down a bit. And that made him very, very angry. But not angry enough to do something like a decent human or man would do, like hit me. Instead, this manly man spit on me like a fucking piece of shit child. So then I approached him aggressively. I think he actually pushed me first. My memory is that he pushed me first. I'm really trying to find the video of this. And then it actually ends kind of anticlimactically because I snapped him down, put him in a guillotine, and like gently choked him until he asked me politely to stop. And then I let him up and went to the front office and shit. But yeah, initially too.
Zak got in the fight for the first time in 15 years.
15 fucking years over this bullshit.
Casually guillotined man. And
well, actually, I was pretty annoyed about it at first because I was like, I should have beat the fuck out of that dude. And, I'll get to that. But at first I thought like, I should have beat the fuck out of that dude. Like, I'm annoyed that I just like gently restrained him until he realized he was going to lose, because that's not embarrassing enough for me. But at the same time, that's kind of what we're supposed to do, right? Like the goal is not to beat people up. The
Zak,
goal
you
is
got
to
things to live for. You're a doctor,
right? I'm a fucking doctor. I'm a 33-year-old man that has a job and a career, and I don't need charges pressed against me, and I don't need to be beating people up. I'm not that prideful, but I actually am now looking back on it very satisfied with the way that I handled things, because
like an adult,
I handled it as much like an adult as I possibly could. But I did. Fun fact: my friend that is at the gym, one of the very nice people that I talk to at the gym regularly, not like hang out with afterwards, but like nice people that I talk to regularly, happen to be there, and overheard this guy back on the phone with whoever he was on the phone with, telling this person he was on the phone with that he had to get off the phone real quick to put this 6'5", 280-pound guy in his place
after getting choked.
Yeah,
good for him. Good for you, buddy.
So I was both bigger than I actually am, although I was still a lot bigger than him, but I was somehow even bigger, and he put me in my place by getting guillotined for 30 seconds and then asking me politely to stop.
Good times, Zak.
But yeah, so that's
your week.
That was what happened this week for me. I
got surgery crap. I've been working like 60 plus hours trying to file every document for the past 4 years, so I don't leave the other folks that are in the fires of my job high and dry by not filing my documents before I head out for 2 months for surgery.
You're too kind.
I'm just a good person. I wish I didn't care, but like I went on Sunday for like half a day after the day after my cousin's wedding. It was also Saturday to do this.
Fucking brutal.
I'm very, very, very tired. One more day. I've got to file the rest of my stuff and finish like the remainder of the documentation paperwork, and then I'm going to basically take a nap and wake up, and they're going to go chop, chop, chop on Wednesday on my spine. Yep. And then hopefully I'll be able to walk and like do stuff in like a couple of weeks. I don't know who's on the show next week because I've not had a chance to like.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Sleep more than 4 hours to do stuff.
We'll figure something out. We'll probably have a show.
We're definitely gonna have a show. I don't know how we're gonna do it yet, but we're definitely gonna have a show.
Maine's gonna do a show on drugs.
It's not.
No, it could end up just being me and Josh or something like that. But you'll still have to do the audio.
I'll be here, but in what capacity we will see.
We'll see.
Zak, that's I got nothing else this week.
Nope, that's it.
All right. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, Joe, my co-host,
Zak,
and we are the Grappling. We're going to see you on the mats whenever that is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.